Hello everybody. Hey guys, it's Andy Decayed Andy here. We got Big D with us today. Hey Big D.
Hey dude, how you doing?
Not bad. We're gonna be picking up from where we left off like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had 2 weeks worth of news, which was kind of surprising. We're gonna be talking about the rest of universe and then what was classed as generations, because I was looking on TFU and Generations gets a little bit floopy whoopy because there's Generations, there's Hunt for the Decepticons, and there's Reveal the Shield. It all kind of gets mushed together around the same time period.
Yeah, it gets a little weird.
So I think I have accidentally put some Hunt for the Decepticon things in here, but because I didn't just check out this, I also checked out the TF Wiki, and the TF Wiki only said that there was like one. There were 4 waves of generations, and there wasn't many figures in there. It was mostly just deluxes, which was weird, and some of them were obviously retools, like Cybertron, Wolf Cybertron Bumblebee, and then like Wave 4, Wolf Cybertron Cliffjumper, etc., etc.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird time.
Yeah, it was just a tad weird.
Just a tad.
Exciting though.
Yeah. Well, as people can see on the stream, we're going to be starting off with a bad one.
Sadly, yes.
To be fair, we got through most of the bad ones last time, but this one's particularly bad, to be fair.
Yeah.
But we're going to play the music, and then we're going to talk some universe.
Woohoo!
Okay, it's time.
Welcome to Moonbase 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moonbase 2 podcast. My name is Andy Decayed Andy. I'm joined by Big D, and we are talking about Transformers Universe and Generations, 2010's toy lines of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if all of these figures were 2010, but they were 2009, 2010 adjacent.
It was that period.
It was. It was a good time for Transformers because this time period we have Hunt for the Decepticons. So that was, what was that? Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hasbro was spaffing their money away because I think this was close to when I'm not sure. I don't think the hub was launched now, but conversations must have been started for that big old waste of money.
I think so. Yeah.
Think about how much money that created. Think how much. It's crazy. But yes, we're going to be talking about these guys. We talked in part 1 about the rest of Universe part 1, and we also decided to, I decided to add on Generations, because Generations is a bit of a weird one for 2010. And then next time, I guess it'll be Reveal the Shield, and I'll see how much is in Reveal the Shield, I guess.
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
I don't know how big the Reveal the Shield wave was.
I mean, there were a few corks in it. I mean, I'm trying to remember because I think
the name didn't last long.
No, but you had the likes of Jazz and Turbo Tracks.
Yeah.
There were a couple of good repaints in there.
Sure, I mean it is worth talking about. It's just I don't think it was a very big line before they just got with it.
Yeah.
What did Reveal the Shield mean? It was Rub Signs. They brought Rub Signs back for like a year, and then they went away again. But we may as well get started with this fucking bad figure. It's Hot Shot. I think we. This was another one of those. Dave. This was put in a box. Nicole got me and Dave like birthday gifts, and it was just a box, and it was like pick the thing that you want. Dave picked this one. He also picked Galvatron. I don't think these were all in the same box, but he'd also picked Galvatron. He'd also picked Cheetor. He'd also picked Dinobot. I wasn't super sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
I will say that the new one is a lot better than this.
Yes, very much so.
However, the original toy, I would say, was better than this.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's not just the fact that it's not a great toy; it's the fact that there were 2 other releases of it that they came with more stuff.
I would say this was a bad toy.
Hmm.
I would, without a shadow of a doubt, say that this was a bad figure. It was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess. And that's one of the reasons was his backpack. The mess that was his backpack. The image you might not...
Pretty.
No. I had no idea what you were meant to do with it. You just... there was a big space between the actual backpack and his back. So there was a big old gap there. And it just felt like parts clattering together that had no idea where they were meant to go. Kind of like the same with the back of the arms. The windows on the roof on the back of the arms were just hanging off there on like hinge joints. Very messy, very confusing toy.
It feels a bit like for priority it was almost the alt mode, because the alt mode is actually pretty one-to-one with the original toy. The robot has some decent articulation in the legs. It if you look at it, you think it's all right, but once you get it in hand, you're just like, oh, you can't do much of this because everything's in the way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look around the figure and you just see how much of a mess it is. Now, because I never owned this, I only played with it around at Dave's house. I don't know. We have the picture here, and you can see there's a big, massive gap between the window and the door going all the way to the back of the car. And I obviously, I don't know if that was consistent, if this is just the best you could get it transformed, or if you could get that gap a lot less egregious.
I think that was... because I have this somewhere still, and I'm pretty sure that was just how it looked. There was a bit of a habit in this year, and we will see it in the next contender, sadly, of panels not being the smoothest in alignment, shall we say.
No, yeah, this is really ugly. It's a mess. It's close enough to his original vehicle mode, but obviously the front of the car is a lot smaller. The engine's really tiny.
Yeah, and we get that situation again where they've gone for translucent and painted for windscreens, when if it'd just been all painted, it probably would have looked a lot nicer.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird because
to explode.
Yeah, like you say, there's like one window screen on the side of one window on the side of the car mode. That's done, but then the front's translucent. The back's clearly all translucent plastic painted yellow in parts. It's messy. Yeah. He didn't come with Jolt, did he? Because it says there's an image that says with Transformers Universe Classics 2.0 Jolt. I don't think he came with it.
I think he did, actually.
Oh, no, yeah, this figure was available with Jolt. There it is, yeah.
Yeah, because the weird thing was that the Takara version came with 2 blaster pistols as well, and then they reappeared when the Collectors Club retooled it repainted it into Dion. But they never got released with any American version of Hotshot himself.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
what do you think of Jolt? Because I think it's fine. It's just the wrong color. Somehow they managed to get him to not be the correct color. Yeah,
but at least it's the right Minicon partner with the right character, and you don't have to buy a separate a more expensive pack to get him, which is.
Yeah, it was nice that you were able to get him. I wouldn't say that's a massive win.
No,
it is something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. White says Hotshot was a greatest hits of all the basic Hasbro mistakes. It's an interesting way to phrase it. You mean for the time period, I assume, Mr. White?
I'd probably agree with that, to be fair. That's not a bad way of putting it.
All the mistakes. I'm trying to think because Hasbro in this time period did make some interesting mistakes. He wasn't stand out. He wasn't stand out in his utter shitness like Meth Kitty Cheeto was. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, he's got weird hands with a weird angle to him.
Yep.
You can't do much with his forearms because he's got all that stuff hanging off him. You can't move his... I mean, there's a reason Hotshot has for years been the "why my shoulders hurt" meme, you know? Because it's taken him, nearly 25 years to come close to getting him right. And even then, for modern version is.
It's okay. It's not perfect. It's got issues to it still, but it
does, but
better.
It's probably
better than this at least. So that's something. You did mention some redecos, and I think it was just the collectors club Dion. Right?
Yeah.
Again,
the Takara version added some chrome to the guns and some other bits, I think, but that was about as far as that went.
Yeah.
So.
And for Dion, it's the same mold. It's just in Dion colors. So he's got a Autobot Elite Guard insignia on his shoulder, but for the most part, it's just he's yellow and blue now, and still kind of messy. He also comes with Coptor or Copter, not Coptor from the GoBots, but Copter. So he's blue. That's okay. That's fine. Do you like Dion more? Because I still think I don't like it because I just don't like the mold.
I like the colors a lot better. I mean, he's actually a figure for a long time I did want to try and add to my collection because he was relatively cheap. I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like the colors in robot mode. There's some nice placement there. I like how the vehicle mode looks with how they've done the blue as like a body paint job. That looks. It's not exciting, but it's crisp. It's nicely done. So
yeah, they've got an Autobot insignia that's almost like whooshing, like the paint isn't fully dried and he whooshed off and the paint just smeared over the side of his bumper, which is quite nice. Looks neat.
And somehow, although it's still got the same issue with the color, with the translucent versus the solid plastic on the roof and the windows, somehow it doesn't feel quite as egregious here. To my eye, it's still not great, but there's something about how it looks. I think because you haven't got the red of Hotshot showing through the windscreen, that blue they've used for Dion it kind of gets blurred a bit more with the windscreen tinting.
I think it's not because Dion's a darker color, kind of looking back and forth between them, and because Hotshot is like bright like piss yellow. Or really bad piss yellow, and they're using a blue color versus like a softer orange and a like gray translucent plastic. I kind of agree with what you're saying. Also, the paint in the back, because it's not yellow paint on the translucent plastic, looks more consistent than it does on Hotshot, which also helps.
Yeah. So
it's not a good one. This is definitely a skippy.
But if you were desperate for it, this might be the version to go for.
I guess I don't know. I'd say don't bother personally. Unless you really have to. If you have to get the mold, then get the cheapest one to see if you want to see if you like it.
Fair as well. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I'd say this is a no square. We got Hound next. Earthrise Hound. He was the quintessential Hound for a while, and he's not a bad Hound. He's just got very big feet, huge, gigantic clompers. If you're a girl who loves robot feet, this would be the robot man for you. He also has a kind of amazingly gormless facial expression, which, oddly enough, I think is most of the expressions we have today for Transformers.
They weren't the most expressive bunch in this line, unfortunately.
I think it's specifically because if you look at the close-up of his head, that the mouth is what you do to give a snowman a mouth. You know, you just put your finger in the snow and just drag it left or drag it right, and that's it. There's no real definition. It's just it's the scene from Babylon 5 where Mr. Garibaldi is in the shower and he puts his finger on the steam and draws the line to show that he's being manipulated. It's that. It's Hound. He's dead inside. He's been bested. This was actually. He's not like an amazing transformer in terms of what he does, but he has a nice kind of updated look. He makes a neatish, not really army jeep. It's more of a, I don't know, all-terrain mountain.
More of a sports 4x4.
Yeah. It's definitely something a much richer person than either of us would have for driving up a very large, rough mountain. Or they might just be American. You know, Americans could have this. But it also came with Ravage as well, which was like, why? How did the budget allow this?
It was weird because I mean, I get why, because Ravage and Hound were linked from the More Than Meets the Eye.
It's still kind of a tentative reason to do it. It's still kind of weird.
It so is, but by the same token, is this possibly still the best Ravage we've had in like the last 15, 16 years?
I honestly couldn't say because I haven't had any of the Studio Series ones. The last quote-unquote new Ravage I got was do you remember the Fall of Cybertron Soundwave with those round disc things?
I had
the Ravage one of that, and all of those disc things were fucking terrible. So this was better than that. The problem with this Ravage is the face is just wrong. It's weird. It's like a bird beak. It doesn't look like a cat head or even a dog head. It looks like a bird.
If they were to retool this Ravage, better head, give them the hip guns, that'd be a solid core class release, maybe?
You, my friend, sound like a Hasbro employee. How can we cheaply do something and not spend a lot of money on a new mold? Look, that'd do.
He'd be more articulated than bloody Rumble and Frenzy are.
Yeah, because Studio Series don't have
elbow joints.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't have elbow joints. There's no reason for that. They could even just do ball joints, right?
Rewind and Eject have more arm articulation than those two Duke goons. And it's purely so that they can fit their hands into the pile drivers. When that just... Sorry, I get all agitated by those two because I like so much about them, and then the arms just... They're in service to the pile drivers, and there's no need for it. Because
did DNA Designs ever make separate arms for them?
No one's done the kit yet for them. I live in hope because it's one of those things you just think, surely one of the easiest things would be... Because they've released Rumble and Frenzy a couple of times now. Because they packed him into that re-release of Soundwave recently. They've had their individual releases in studio.
Which re-release of Soundwave are you talking about?
The one that came with Buzzsaw and Ravage. The Legacy.
But how recent was that? Oh, the leader one. The quote-unquote leader. Okay.
Yeah.
They were in that one, the Studio Series ones? Was there any difference in them? Like paint-wise or something? Or were they exactly the same as the Studio Series one? I
think... Well, they only put one of them in. I think it was the blue one.
Of course, they only put in one. Why would they put in both?
It's slightly different paint to the Studio Series.
Okay.
I haven't got mine yet, so I can't say for certain on that one. But I'm genuinely surprised that no one in the third party has done replacement arms for those two.
Yeah, it's only like 4 pieces, and then if you do both, it's 8 pieces. That you could probably sell that for like 20 quid, and people would buy it. 10 quid for arms. Yeah. They do it. You know, that's whatever. The Ravage, though, the Ravage, he turns into about as convincing as a cassette as most of the cassettes are these days, anyway. So it's fine. I do generally like how it looks in cat mode, apart from its head. Apart from that, it's all right.
I think it was designed to be compatible with G1 Soundwave if you had one.
It was, yes.
Because this one they were re-releasing it as well. Yeah.
I mean, it's about. I think it's generally close to the right size, but I can't remember 100%. They do have a quote-unquote attack mode in very strong mode. There are 2 little black things that you can flip up that go in the cassette holes, so Ravage can peg onto that. And then, as Big D said, you can get the gun, which has the shoulder clip or a hand clip. It has either one. You can do either. And it goes into the back of the chair. I don't know how that makes it in a quote-unquote attack mode, but I guess it does.
Wait.
Okay.
They classify Ravage as part of the attack mode. I've never thought that.
Nor have I.
The gun, yes. Ravage, no.
Well, they have on TFU info. Apparently.
Weird.
Yeah, it's odd. I'm not entirely sure why budget. Granted, I'm sure it wasn't a lot of budget. I don't know why budget was spent on the 2 extra pieces that would flip up to hold Ravage. When I guess it's for a play feature, so like Hounds maybe captured him and like taking him back to the Autobot bit. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a stretch.
It's a shame because I'd have liked Town to have had both a proper handgun and also the cannon they give you for him is so weird because the post you're supposed to use to hold it is just literally a bar that fits in the middle of the 5mm hole in his hands.
Yeah.
And it's not very thick either. But then the clip that you use to attach it to the back of the chair for the vehicle mode is a pain in the ass to get to sit right on in either shoulder.
Yeah,
either side of the shoulders.
It almost feels like it was a last minute decision that they could make the gun for him, but I don't know why the peg for the hand, like you said, has been flattened. It is a 5mm. It's 5mm, but it's not a round thing. It's like if you get a sausage and just squeeze it in your hand and smush it down. It's 5mm. It's just flat for some reason.
Yeah, it's
who knows why?
Yeah, it's weird. I do.
You know what it's like? It's like he's RC that has a sword, and for some reason they've decided to flatten it.
Yeah,
for no reason.
Yeah, I do like a lot about this figure. I mean, there's stuff like the way that the seats fold down to become his thighs. That's
really fun.
Yeah, I've always liked that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice alt mode. The fact that it's not a Willis Jeep, it carries on what I liked about the Chug era, where they were trying to put a new spin on a classic. So it's Hound colors. It's obviously Hound in robot mode, but it's a slightly different vehicle mode. But it's still quintessentially Hound at the same time. And
they added the bull bars. Oh, are they bull bars in the front of that? Because they're more like tusks, like bull tusks, as they come further out from the vehicle mode than they should do, which looks really cool. I'm not sure how practical or realistic that is, but it looks really neat. And it gives him, his chest looks, again, really imposing when you see it in person.
I mean, it gives him a bit of a Jurassic Park vibe.
It does, actually.
Before you drive around the park.
Yeah, this wouldn't have actually been too bad to use for the Jurassic Park line, but granted, it's too old to do it, but you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. White says, Hound barely has hands. They look more like old plastic 4-pack holders. 4-pack holders.
They are very thin, his hands, in fairness.
Yeah. We've seen some other figures I think we talked about them last week where it was the Classics Optimus Prime, the deluxe one, who had like really thin hands as well for some reason.
Yeah, it was always weird. It was weird because we saw it before with Mirage, where they had much smaller space to work with, so we just made the fists a smaller size.
Yeah,
the holes a smaller size. So I guess they just didn't think it was worth the worry on at this point. They figured they had enough material to work with.
It's odd. I'm pretty sure though as well that the Hound has ankle tilts as well, or an ankle rocker.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, which it's kind of unique for this time period, which is nice. A minor negative is the translucent plastic for the window shield is painted green, and obviously it's very obvious between the painted part and the standard plastic part.
Yeah.
It does almost nicely break up the plastic, but it is, as a person that has it in hand, you're like, I know why it's like that, but I guess it's okay,
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and at least it is just a single piece of the figure that does that.
Yes.
Which is,
it's not like the entire back window or the entire roof of the car.
Or it's not like they've tried to mix the two translucent and regular plastic to get one effect and try to cheat things. They've just gone, right, we're going to put translucent here, paint it, and it's just for one piece for windshield and a bit of the front of the bonnet.
And the bit of the bonnet, maybe if you want to fudge it for your mind, you can say that part doesn't move when you lift up the bonnet of the car. I don't know.
Yeah, which...
It is a little copium, but fair enough, it could happen. In terms of redo, he got one, which is the one... Well, I have this one as well. It's BotCon Turbomaster. Or a Turbomaster. It's Scorch. I don't know why they call him Turbomaster. It's Scorch. He still has the gomless expression on his face. He comes with Shattered Glass Ravage or Glint, the white Ravage, which is actually pretty neat as well, to be fair. It is just Ravage, but white with light blue highlights. But it's nice. I like it. And the Scorch is really nice. He's yellow, and then bits of orange here and there. He could probably do with a bit more of a stronger orange on him, I think. Because I have this, and I can tell you that the orange could be like brighter, or at the very least, it would have been nice to highlight it with like maybe black behind it, just to pop it just a little bit more.
The flames do kind of blend a bit too much into the hood, unfortunately.
Yeah, needed to be
I do think
darker.
The fact that they use that orange plastic for the windscreen means that the yellow paint they've used looks... You can still tell it's yellow paint compared to the plastic, but that's actually a lot of a nicer finish than a lot of yellow paint they've done in the past.
Yeah, Bokon used a nice yellow plastic. They didn't use piss yellow like they did for Hotshot, who we talked about right at the start of the show. And like you said, you can tell it's painted, but I think because it's not that piss yellow, it's not as noticeable here. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think because of orange, well, because we both paint miniatures, we know what it's like.
Yeah.
For color, the underlying color always affects the tone of what you put over the top of it. Doesn't matter what paint you use, it's always going to have an effect. And in this case, having that orange underneath gives it that slightly warmer shift that it just means that the yellow, it matches the yellow a bit better in terms of just making it feel a little richer. So, but no, it's a nice repaint. I didn't actually realize this one existed.
Yeah. It was it 2007 Bokon? I think it was the Bokon that had Banzaitron made from
Bokon 2010.
Oh, Bokon 2010. I think it was the one that had Skyquake as... No, Skyquake was using the Ghost of Starscream mold from Superlink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Banzaitron was using Tidal Wave. Not Tidal Wave, Mirage from Cyberlink, the boat.
Yeah.
And I picked up those ones because I was like, oh, it's G2 stuff. I'll buy that. Yeah, finally. Yeah, why not? And I did. And they're neat. They're neat. And luckily, Hound I would describe as kind of boring, but not because he's a bad toy. Maybe because he doesn't do a huge amount. But I never felt he was like, wow, he's fucking Hound. It's just like, yeah, he's good. He's good. He doesn't get me excited.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He's solid.
Yeah.
Dependable.
He'll pay for my food, but I don't want to fuck him. So next up we have Ironhide, who was, it's fair to say Ironhide mold was a bit of a miss here. There was some interesting ideas, but there's a lot of issues with Ironhide. One, he has a weird cock. Let's get that out of the way with. Not just his cock, but there's a gap. But you can't see desperately well in this image. There's a gap between like his waist area and his chest. It almost kind of floats above. It's weird.
It's weird, and because of the way the automorph feature works with the chest and the head.
His
combined
head never comes up.
Yeah,
never.
You always feel like I've not done that right. And you have, but he never looks finished. Yeah.
For some reason, the engineering, because even if you try and grab the head and the neck joint and like wrench it up, it will not come up any further. So it almost feels like his chin, for those not able to see images, the way it almost feels like is if you get your chin and put your chin on your chest, it almost feels like Ironhide's always doing that and you can't really get him away from that pose. And that's just how it was engineered for whatever reason. He's got 6 screws visible in his arms, 1 in his very tiny bicep area, and then 2 in the shoulder as well, and that's on each side. You don't often see that with Transformers, even of the era of like 2010. It's kind of weird to have the screws facing forward. Again, just one of those like, what's happening? His hands were not like normal hands. They were bitch slapping hands that were on ball joints. Again, it was interesting to have hands on ball joints. That was nice. It was just odd that they weren't posed. They were always in a relaxed slapping hand motion, and he couldn't hold a gun. That's Transformers. They're meant to hold a gun.
I mean, the weapon he comes with is kind of nifty. The fact that
it's an interesting idea.
It's a knife and a gun, and it clips over his forearm if you fold the hand in.
Yeah.
But it just feels a bit half-baked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a desperately impressive looking weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of this figure all over, to be honest, sadly.
Yeah, I'll give it to them that. Well, I won't give them that. The transformation I didn't think was very fun. I remember it just being
God no
faffy. It wasn't faffy to the extent of like, Alternator's Grimlock or something like that. But for a deluxe figure, it was definitely more in the veins of, again, Hot Shot at the beginning of the show, where
it's just so much swiveling parts to try and get them lined up correctly.
Yeah, I did again, the way that they did his shins was kind of interesting, because there's quite a few like panels that fold, and like they kind of spin 180 around as well. It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff that just never pans out.
There's some really interesting engineering going, because, like you say, the legs compress down massively. He's got, and I think this mold does have ankle rockers as well.
I think he does. It's been a long time.
So I mean, the legs compose quite nicely, but then you get to the arms, and because of how they're done, you can't do much with them because the engineering's just. You can see from a picture of how they fold out, but there's no rotation. They can swivel up and down on the sides, but the bicep doesn't have any rotation to it.
Isn't the orange part that goes into the black part of the forearm, isn't there a swivel there? I can't remember. It's been a long time.
You know what? I can't remember either now. I always just remember I always got annoyed with what I could do with it, which was not much. But
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. There's annoying. He has an ugly backpack as well, which obviously it isn't shown in these images, but he does have like the I think it's the back half of the car. Yeah, it's the back half of the car mode that's not really transformed, that kind of sits on his back, that he just kind of folds away.
That's true. I've just stood up and I can actually see my Chug Ironhide on top of a stack of DVDs.
You should go and grab him. You should grab him. Oh, is he too far away?
But, I would grab him, but there's like
there's stuff in the way.
Yes. As is my want.
If I remember, wasn't the front window screen wasn't there a part that went all the way down the center of the vehicle mode into the front of the hood, like the middle of the hood, and then all the way down into the front bonnet? Again, that's kind of interesting, but it's very much like, why? Wasn't there a more elegant way to do it?
Yeah, everything about it feels like this was almost a concept, and someone just said, approve it.
I lied. I said it was the back of the car mode that folded up into his back. It's not. It's the front of the car mode with the window screen and the centerpiece of the front bumper that kind of folds up into itself. That's what it is, because the back of the car is his chest.
That's right, yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. And then as the more I looked at it, I went, oh, fuck, that's how it works. That's how it does it.
Yeah.
What kind of vehicle is this? Because it's not the happy little camper van that we're used to. This is I don't know what kind of car this is meant to be. This looks like a soccer mom kind of car. Why I would imagine.
Yeah. That'd be my take as well. To be honest, it's that kind of big American.
You want to have 5,000 children in the back of your van, and you've got a dual school run. It looks like one of those.
Yeah, you want everyone else on the road to just bounce off you.
Yeah, the wife's like 3 foot tall, but she has this like 9 foot tall car. It's one of those ones.
So you can't look at.
No,
can't see the driver of the bonnet.
No, you can just about see them. They can just see through the steering wheel, but they can't see over it. It's a okay design vehicle mode. It's a little bit on the boring side, but there are so many windows that are painted here, apart from the front ones, which are translucent, which makes it very obvious.
That hurts.
It's very.
And it's not particularly dark translucent either, so you just see all of his innards inside.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, they still like to do to this day and age for some reason. They did it with Cybertron Hotshot for no reason. And his original toy wasn't that translucent. It's like, right, okay. But yeah, Ironhide. It's better than Hotshot. So I kind of put it in the I go with like the bad category. He's not like egregious where I'm like angry. I had him. There's just a lot of things about him for the era where you play with him and you go, this just isn't good.
I mean, he filled a gap that a lot of us needed filling in the collection at the time. Because
there wasn't another Ironhide.
Yeah, I mean, Ironhide hadn't really had a figure since his G1 toy.
Yeah, and if you look at that G1 toy and you look at this one, you go, well, it looks like Ironhide.
Yeah,
it's the first Ironhide toy that looks like Ironhide.
Yeah,
it's just like,
and it's got. I mean, honestly, as much as it's a gimmick, I do kind of like how the mechanical stuff rises up into become his chest from inside.
It's not cute. The best thing ever, but you go, okay,
yeah,
that's fun. Mr. White says, I just had a weird vision of GW taking over the Transformers line. I will struggle to sleep at night. Oh, God. That sounds awful. Mr. White also says, as he switched over to Twitch, was this a figure the Transformers fans had a huge expectation for? Feels like a missed opportunity. I think generally people were okay with. Well, the thing was, I was much younger then, so I didn't have the old man hatred of everything that I do now. Cynicism has grown in me.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was just glad to have a modern take on Ironhide in my collection. And the thing is, he wasn't a small deluxe by any stretch. He actually I've got him stood next to Voyager Ultra Magnus / Optimus Prime. And
which one's that one?
The classics Prime mold.
Oh, okay.
And, he stands right next to him. Would have been
quite
nice.
Wide as well, right?
Yeah. There's a nice mass to it. And nothing's ever been loose about it. It's always posed quite nicely.
Yeah.
Whereas my Hound over years has well, even when I got it, one of the hip joints was a bit loose.
Oh, really?
But,
the Generations one, Universe one, I mean.
Yeah, it was always weird, to be fair.
Oh,
but Ironhide and I have the Ratchet repaint as well. They've always been quite nice and solid, to be fair.
Yes, because if you didn't know, yes, they did a Ratchet.
Yes.
Of course they did. For some reason, he has a gigantic red head crest, which doesn't look like Ratchet's head crest. It just looks like someone with one really big unibrow.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. I think the paint... I think the Ratchet looks better than the Ironhide, especially in the robot mode. He has a lot more different plastic breakup. He's got like on his hips, it's the black. He's got red bits of paint on all over the white. He's got translucent bits of blue on him to again break it up. He just looks nicer vehicle wise as well. He looks better. For some reason though, he has the on the front of his car mode in the center, there's a badge symbol, which I assume is where you're meant to, if you have one, have like an ambulance service badge, maybe? Or is that like for where an Autobot insignia should go?
I think it's kind of an either-or situation.
Yeah.
This was, I think, the period where Hasbro would kind of been a bit more circumspect with what logos they put on their medical characters.
I think you're right.
Because they'd gotten rather rinsed by the Red Cross.
Had they? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, no. I don't have any images of the Henke versions of these guys. I don't remember if there was much change. I'm pretty sure...
I think my version of Ratchet is the Henke version.
They just had the weapon was just chromed, right? I can't remember if anything else was done with them, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot else different, to be honest.
I don't. There might be. We'll say there might be, because neither you nor I is sure on that. And it's safer to just go, I don't know.
Yeah, and I can't remember where my version of it is, to be honest.
It'll be somewhere around. Mr. White says, did they fumble the design trying to do too much?
Possibly.
I wouldn't say it was a fumble, because I think they were trying to make it an Ironhide figure, and it is unique. I mean, if you put this up against this mold, up against obviously the Studio Series 1, the Studio Series 1 is much better. It's much more accurate. It transforms better, although it can be a little bit faffy in its own right.
I mean, put it up against. I mean, we've had what 3 Ironhides in the last, 4 Ironhides technically in the last 5 years. So, and any one of those would, I'd say, would, in terms of what they do, would blow this one out of the water. But this one gets points because it was the first modern Ironhide that actually resembled the cartoon and comic book character.
Yeah.
And looked like he had been depicted as opposed to the G1 toy. And there is a lot of engineering gone into this. There's a hell of a lot of engineering in there.
I do wonder if they hadn't done the I think you mentioned this as well. I think if they hadn't done the automorph gimmick, as minor as it is, if it would have massively improved the toy. You know, because they wouldn't have to worry around, fumble around with that. It was like, I guess at this point, like Dark of the Moon, the next year, the next 2 years in the future, was when automorphing became much more of a heavy thing that Hasbro went into. And I guess you could say this wasn't the full prototype, because obviously, like 2007 Leader Movie Prime had the automorphing head gimmick reveal. And stuff, but
if you told me this was a test bed for what they wanted to do with Dark of the Moon, I'd believe you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. Either way, there was also apparently shattered glass Soundwave used for this mold. Oh yeah, this was the Ninja. I completely forgot Ninja dancing white Soundwave was this one.
I'd forgotten as well, to be honest. This is where that whole idea for Soundwave shattered glass came from.
I obviously remember white Soundwave is this. I just didn't remember it was this. They used this mold. Why would you use this mold for Soundwave? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got the cool Dreadnought logo on the side of its vehicle mode as well. You can see Zartan's head on the side.
I do get it, because this was post-animated, where the previous Soundwave had been
that makes sense.
The vans.
Yes.
So if you wanted a more realistic quotation marks looking van, this would have been the one to go for.
That's a good point.
I would love to see that animated Soundwave done in these colors.
I'm trying. They didn't do that, did they? I don't think they did.
No, they've not done that to my knowledge. But I'd love to see someone take a stab at it one day.
We will need to talk about the animated wave, because that was around this time period as well.
Yeah.
We decided to do Chug, but we can technically, I suppose, go back and do animated, because animated is a weird toy line. There's some really good toy lines, but it started off pretty poorly and got a lot better as it went on. It's an interesting little line. But no, this Soundwave is pretty good. I don't know why they've sculpted eyes into the head and just painted over green over the whole thing. It's a bit weird. It's pretty interesting visually. I think Ratchet's still the best of them, and then Soundwave, and then last but not least is probably Ironhide, who's just a bit on the boring side.
I would agree with that, to be honest. That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. Next up, we're nearly done with Universe, so we're going to be talking about Power Glide, who they decided to make into an Ultra for some reason.
Which is one hell of a glow up.
Yeah, it's a weird figure, because like he's got lights and sounds in his tits for engine thrusters.
Yeah.
Like they really reinvented his design. However, although I don't think his robot mode is very good, I think the Warthog jet thing is really cool. That's really
Warthog is stunning.
Yeah, it's a really good alt mode.
Yeah. I adore that alt mode.
Yeah.
It's in terms, I mean, I never got around to picking up for repaint, but I do have this version. And I've still kept it because I like the fact that it could stand in as, it doesn't have to be Power Glide, to my mind. The way I've been looking at my collection nowadays is if a better version of a character comes out, if an older sculpt, I can still find a place for it. 'Cause I'd like my collection now to be kind of like almost a living archive of some of the sculpts from over the years. Where, especially if something's interesting, and Power Glide is really interesting because, good lord.
I think the biggest negative, and I remember like feeling utterly confused when it came out originally was, why is it colored like that? For those not aware, the color scheme on Power Glide, the red jet, the famously red jet, the color scheme they went for him here is creamy white, and then red highlights. Not red color, highlights.
Yes.
But to break up the kind of creamy plastic, he has random bits of grey plastic.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
It's bizarre. It's a really shitty color scheme, unfortunately. I think even if you wanted to go for a more realistic color scheme, something else had to be done to make it pop just a little bit more, just to do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if they'd given him maybe a desert camo pattern or something like that.
That would have been cool.
I mean, it's weird though, because he's an A10 Warthog, and traditionally they're generally painted in greens because they're ground attack fighters.
Yeah.
So something like that would have been different. You still have kept the red head, but given him maybe an all over green color scheme instead.
That could have been interesting. Could have been different.
But I don't know. I mean, I agree. It's a very odd color pattern, to be fair. It's certainly not what you'd think of with Power Glide.
No, utterly bizarre.
Yeah.
His gun was cool. He had the cool kind of Gatling gun, and you turn it round, and it's a missile launcher. It's not the best thing ever, but it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there was some fun stuff going on there, and it meant that you had options for just playing it in robot mode as well. You could either have it with the missile pointing forward, or you could have him firing it as the Gatling gun.
Yeah, I always used the Gatling gun because I thought it just looked better, to be honest.
I mean, it's an 18 Gatling gun, and that's the coolest thing ever, isn't it?
It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. Yeah. So even though this mold, like in terms of the mold's issues, he's got really thin hips. He's got really dainty thin hips, and his legs are really close together, especially compared to how like broad his chest is, because he's got this giant engine boob. I don't think it's too bad. I think it's generally okay. I think it's let down primarily by how just crap the color scheme is. Luckily, there were other versions of this mold. I got the Japanese version, which was the red version, which was just mostly red. It wasn't that interesting, in all honesty, but it's better.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years later, when was this version done? 2000. Walmart. Walmart had this exclusive, which was a red version of Power Glide. I still think the Japanese version looked better, which granted I don't have images of. But if this one had came out, I would have been happy enough with this, because this is Power Glide colors. He's red. Yeah. He's a red jet with boring gray plastic here and there, but he's mainly red, and it looks okay. It's fine.
It's much more. It reads much more of Power Glide from the off.
Yeah, exactly.
Thinking, it's an A10. Who's that? Oh, it's Power Glide, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Listening yesterday. It's Power Glide, and he's huge.
He's big for some reason. And then they had the other redeco, which is a really cool redeco, to be honest. Stormcloud, who I don't recognize the name, but the color scheme is black, really, really, really dark purple on his forearms, bits of gray here and there, and then some yellowy, greeny, like for the faceplate and the knees. And it comes out pretty good. It looks like a nice, mean jet.
It does. It's one of those color schemes it just screams Decepticon at you.
Yes, very kind of generic-y kind of colors, but works.
He's a good member for Goon Squad.
Yeah, black, purple. Yeah. Fair enough. It works.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember a huge amount about this mold, about like my opinions of it. Like nothing really shouts out.
I mean, the lights and sounds were pretty epic, because if I remember right,
I don't remember them
the engines light up and make engine sounds, but I think it also would make Gatling gun sounds.
That would make sense. Do you remember how many sound effects it had? Was it just the 2?
I can't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately. But this was that brief moment where they were doing these ultra class figures, and they just rammed them full of electronics.
Oh yeah.
We've got like another 3, I think, to talk about today, and they were all just rammed full of this stuff. It was kind of fun. But
was it really the last of like the main toy line big toys that had licensed sounds? Not including movie stuff.
I think so, yeah, because after this was kind of when the budget cuts kind of came into play.
Mm.
I mean, we had already seen a few with like Galvatron and the like, but it was after this kind of, it was like 2011 onwards, after this whole wave, when things kind of started taking a bit of a tumble. So electronics were right out the door.
Yeah,
I don't think
so.
we've had. I'm trying to think. Have we had any mainline figures of electronics?
I think the better question is, when was the last time we had it? Because I can't remember. I'm sure we have. I just don't remember. Feels like a long time ago. Not that I care. It was never ever a feature that I really invested heavily in.
Yeah.
But you know, interesting to think about at the very least.
Yeah, definitely.
Get rid of Power Glide. Now we have Inferno, who's a very, very broad-chested version. I think if you want like a comparison, he's got a very similar look to Heatwave that's coming out, or the bulkhead from Legacy.
Yeah.
That kind of chest. It's the exact same chest, where it's the front of a fire engine that's just not transformed. He's got some shoulder pad cape action, sort of robes going over the top of him. He's got an underslung gun, which a bit of a negative. You can do nothing with. It's always stuck on the underside of his arm, which was a bit of a shame.
Yeah, but I always liked it because it kind of played into the original figure having one of those fixed gun hands back in the day. So
I'd like the ability to like choose where the gun would go, though.
Yeah. I get that.
He was a very boxy character. I think he makes a pretty realistic looking fire engine, though, more realistic-y and modern-y than like the old one.
Yeah, it's a nice stocky little fire truck.
I think the issue with it is the top is not really covered, so it's very obvious like where the arms are. It's like the sides along the side of the vehicle. It's all kind of hidden, and you go, oh, okay, it's all cohesive. And then you look on the top, and it's just kind of all out there to bear.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the water hydrant gun thingy just kind of swivels on his... it swivels off of his forearm and just kind of floats. It doesn't really connect anything. It just kind of floats in the air, which is a bit of a bummer. I don't think there's anything done with the back of the vehicle mode either.
No, there wasn't. It was pretty open, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because this does have a lot going for it. Because it is blocky, but it is quite fun. I've always enjoyed messing around with these guys.
I just never loved... I think the issue was I never loved the robot mode.
I can understand that.
And I think it is because his chest just doesn't do anything. And he's also got this... The front of the bumper flips down, and it's a really long... like drop down skirt, it feels like, or always felt like to me. It always felt like it went a little bit too far down. Again, it's not bad. It's an interesting redesign. I do like the head sculpt. I think the head sculpt's really nice.
Yes.
Not sure how Inferno-y it is, because he obviously doesn't have the box around his head.
Yeah, I mean that was the big difference between this and other Infernos. He doesn't have that, because the ladder isn't a feature. It's just not there to encase the head. So they tried something different again. Again,
they tried something different. Good.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out, I don't think, properly, because I didn't love it. I don't think I didn't hate it either. It was very much for me like a... I remember getting a lot of feelings when I think back to it. Yes, it's okay. It's fine.
I mean, I think I might have preferred... So I've got 3 of this toy, because I've got this one, the grapple they did in Hotspot, and I think I would have preferred Hotspot. That might just be because of my attachment to the character. So I had an attachment to Inferno from some of the comic stuff, but I never owned him when I was younger.
Right.
So it was nice to have an Inferno finally in the collection, and one that was a fairly decent figure that was fun to mess around with and could do stuff, but wasn't overly gimmicky. But overall, I do think I probably preferred Hotspot out of this mod, just because I think it may just have actually felt a bit more Hotspot like because of the silhouette, just to my mind.
I could see that.
It wasn't a 1-for-1, but it just to me read that way. So
we do have the Henke images as well. There's not a huge amount of differences. Again, the water cannon gun is chromed because that's the thing that you do.
Yep.
And then he just mostly seems to be a much, much brighter red. The American version was a
bit darker, more of a crimson.
Yeah, that's a good. I was trying to think of the color. It's definitely more crimson, and this is more like just pure red kind of color.
Yeah, interesting use of different colors for the veins on his head. That's interesting.
Oh yeah. They've instead of doing them all silver or all gold, it's just the centerpiece is silver, and then the little horn bits are gold. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it's different, I suppose.
It's Henke, so it's extra paint, so...
Yeah, why not? You mentioned a couple of redos. We have a retool, which was Grapple, who has a head that doesn't really make me think of Grapple, but he is very frowny. And instead of the fire hydrant cannon gun thing, he has a new crane. Awkward as ever to sit on his back. Yeah. It is just obviously the same vehicle mode and the robot mode. Oh, they've given him new hands as well. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that, yeah.
Yeah, he's got calm, relaxed, open hands rather than just closed fist hole pegs. I wonder why they gave him those hands. You don't often see that. Oh, also they remolded his shoulders and his forearms. I think the legs are the same. Are they the same? I think they're the same.
He does have a bit more remodeling than you'd expect, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the problem is it's not obvious. Like if you just quickly look at the figure, you don't obviously notice because he feels woefully underpainted, at least in robot mode.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before. There's always a bit of a danger with some of, especially when you go for lighter color, lighter end of the spectrum. The detail just gets a bit washed out of a plastic with nothing else over it, and it is a shame because there is a lot to like about this. I mean, again, I have this version of Grapple. He was always fun to mess around with. Bit of a pain. You had to always swivel the armor around to make him stand anywhere on the shelves.
Oh yeah. Did it have any issues with stability and standing? Just because that crane piece is pretty big.
I've never had any issue with any of the figures based off this mold standing up. To be fair,
okay.
There's no ankle tilts of any sort, but it still stands quite nice and stable. So,
don't his little feet kind of? I mean, it's not an ankle tilt, but don't they kind of like jiggle a little bit?
There's a little bit to them, not much,
but
more than you'd have expected from this period. To be fair,
so there's that one. There's Artfire, who is a mix between Grapple and Inferno. He also came with Nightstick, who was the repaint of Cyclonus's dude. I don't recognize Sparks, though. Was Sparks brand new? I think Sparks might be brand new.
He might have been, yeah.
I don't recognize Sparks at all. Maybe he was something. So he's kind of an interesting mix of the two figures, I suppose. Nice color scheme, but Artfire's always had kind of a nice looking color scheme on it. There's also the hotspot that you talked about with the really cool head, which I do like.
But my board does it for me too much, just because it's a really nice head sculpt.
It is. It's almost Grimlocky. It's not, but it's almost Grimlocky. Yeah, nice head sculpt, but again, could do with a bit more paint. Then there was the Protectobot hotspot, which is using Grapple's head. It's like the Inferno as well. The Artfire as well. It's using Grapple's head. It's using Grapple's crane arm, but then it's using the Grapple body, and it's colored red. I don't know why this was a thing. I don't know what this is meant to be.
I had actually forgotten that this one existed.
What's it meant to be? I don't recognize it.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like Hotspot or any of the other guys, really.
No. I have no idea. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Wait, wasn't this a box gift set they did?
I'll take your word for it. Let's say yes. Oh, this figure was available exclusively at Amazon with the Protector Bots Evac Squad Protector Bots Blade in 2014. What's that? Oh, that was that's a movie figure. I can't remember what movie figure this is. Wow, that is an ugly robot who's just white. That is an ugly boy.
Oh, it's movie Blaze Master, apparently.
Wasn't Blaze Master like blue and gold or orange?
I think he had like 2 different toys because they did them in
Blaze Master.
2 different scales.
Oh, that's right. Wow, kind of. This was kind of the one I'm thinking. Oh god, this had to have the gold plastic syndrome. Look at that gold on him. That must be dying. Blaze Master. He must.
I think I have one of him in a box somewhere, so I might have to check it at some point.
You should squeeze his arms just to see if you hear any creaking. Just a slight squeeze, just to hear if you hear a crack, and then you go, okay, no touchy. Yeah, I can't say that was a good box set. That's a terrible box set, like a weird hotspot that doesn't look like hotspot on a Blaze that's made out of Blaze Master.
Yeah, thankfully Blades had already had a much better version. Well, 2 better versions. In the prior 2 years. So
there's also a redo of or repaint of the standard Inferno into Pyromaster for BotCon, which worked pretty well actually. He's got a fuck ton of color on him, and he's very bright, and he's even got his yellow bottom with his numbers on and the tiger stripes, and works shockingly well for this. I think this is, for me, my preferred version of him. I don't own it, but I think he looks best like this, and it kind of works as Pyromaster.
It does, yeah. I mean, there's a reason it was. I mean, I think Renderform did an alternate head for it.
Oh, that's nice.
They sold to make it look more like the last standard for records version.
Mm-hmm.
And this is version it's probably the one version I'd like to have.
That makes sense. Though I'd like new Pyromaster. So different.
Oh yes, a new Pyromaster would be lovely. Very nice.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen, but yeah, pretty good.
Well, we get an Iron Fist, so we're getting there slowly.
Yeah, maybe. We also have Silverbolt, who had lights and sounds, or at least sounds, and wasn't much of a transformer. He's very much the robot is the underside of the plane. He does very little. I thought for like how he looked visually, I thought they did a good job capturing how Silverbolt would look. He's really big and tall. Obviously looked a lot better than the original. But I remember even back in the day when this came out the first time, I was like, so he's not going to be a combiner. We're not getting Superior, are we? And we didn't. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I was still amazed when we got the first real modern combiner in Fall of Cybertron with Bruticus.
Yeah. That was terrible.
And even then I thought, oh, okay, so that's going to be it, is it? And then we got Combiner Wars, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that was much better. I will say I do like Silverbolt's jet mode, even though the robot mode is just kind of awkwardly folded up underneath him.
Yes, sadly. But it is a very nice jet. I mean, it gives me bits of the... What was that Cobra stealth bomber they did?
The Night Raven?
Yeah, the Night Raven. Gives me a bit of a hint of that to it.
I kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I see it. I did like the part of the transformation where you pushed the entire waist section up and the head would pop up and the transformation sound would go off. That was quite fun.
Yeah.
You know, that simple things. Cool. You know, it was just an excuse to get the lights and sound gimmicks to work, but it's like, it's fun.
But then yes, like his eyes would flash.
Yeah.
The 2 buttons, one would do engine noises and engine lights, and the other one would do cannon sounds and some other stuff. So yeah, I mean, he had no waist swivel and was a little limited in what you could do.
He had a lot of joints, but you couldn't do much with them. It was one of those kind of figures.
Yeah, which is kind of the downside to having a whole jet hanging off your back, sadly.
Yes.
But, I mean, when you look at it, the way that basically the front third of the jet just folds straight back over It actually looked from the front of the robot. It actually looks quite nice.
It's a nice silhouette.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not. Although it is a lot of backpack, it's not an obnoxious amount of backpack in terms of its depth.
Yeah,
it's quite a flat backpack overall.
I would say it's more egregious in jet mode. I think having that much just like undercarriage was not very good. I don't mind a slightly cumbersome backpack like this. Like you said, it was fine. I think my issue more so with it was how much crap was hanging underneath him.
Yes, I mean, at least they did try and do stuff like so. The legs with the way they concertina in, they do try and follow the shape of at least the intakes look like intakes of some sort. It's not perfect, but Silverbolt has always been one of they've really struggled with that because honestly, the only way it would ever work is if somehow you could fold the entire robot inside the fuselage.
I think my problem was we had Starscream and we had Cyclonus, and they were pretty clean underneath themselves.
Yeah.
This felt to me like a bit of a backstep in some ways.
True. Yeah.
Even though it was a bigger figure, it was backstepping.
Yeah. It's another case where I suspect because of the amount of electronics they shoved in there, that hindered what they could really do.
I would agree. Yeah.
But he was, for the time, he was relatively cheap, and
he was only he was an ultra, wasn't he? So he would have only been like 30, 40 quid, give or take.
I don't think I even paid anywhere near that for it. I think I only paid like 25 new, if that.
I don't think he would have been released at 25. Because I'm pretty sure deluxes were probably 14 at that point.
Deluxes were 14. Voyagers were...
They would have been like low 20s, I would imagine. So I think this might have been like 30 to 40. No, it wouldn't have been 40. It must have been in the 30s, probably. Must have been.
Yeah, because leaders were in the 40 range generally.
My leaders didn't exist at this point. It was just like this was the biggest class you got. These were ultras, or at least for this range.
Yeah. Leaders existed in other lines, but not this one.
They were in the movie lines, but not for this line for whatever reason. It's weird. Another issue I had was the inconsistency with color. Like he has these very orangey arms, and then the landing gears on the top of his shoulders. Then he goes into the crimson kind of color again for his like waist and chest area. And then he has gold, and then light gray, and then dark gray, and then silver as well, and then gold. If I didn't mention the gold, so his color scheme was a little bit all over the place. It was nice he had color, unlike Power Glide, but
absolutely,
it was a little much. Thankfully, they sorted that out when they did the repaint of him. I think they did two, didn't they? Yes, they did two. They did Darkwing and Skyfall. So we'll have a look at Darkwing first. Is it Darkwing? Darkwind? No, Darkwind. This is the version that I
always get that confused as well, to be honest.
It's a fact.
Is it Dreadwind, Dreadwing, Darkwind, or Darkwing?
Well, you got to remember, I'm sure one of them, one of the releases around this time period, got the names weird as well, and did the first part of one characters and then the second part of another characters and mushed them together. Which didn't help the consistency. In terms of color scheme wise, he is what you would expect. So like a very light blue, dark blue, purple, and gray, and it's much more consistent throughout the figure. They didn't remold it at all, but on the jet mode, because all of the jet was his backpack, they added a load of purple onto it as well. So the jet mode looks significantly different from the robot mode as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Having that purple on the underside of the wings as well really gives... Because that was always a trademark of the G1 toy for Darkwind, that he had those deep purple wings. And if you can't get that over all of the wings, just having it on the bottom with the blues of the main body, it gives you... If you knew Darkwind, then this tells you, without a shadow of a doubt, it's Darkwind.
Yeah.
So...
And they managed to cheat the face enough to where it looks close enough to his head. It's not it's not a new mold, but because they only painted effectively the mouth area blue, like the original figure, the original design, it's like it fudged it pretty well. I was for the time I was happy with it.
It's a cheat, but it works.
Yeah. And that's why I was really happy because I had this one and I had the BotCon 2007 Dread Wind version.
Yeah.
And they went okay together. Like, I'm pretty sure Dark Wind here was much taller though.
Yeah.
Because he was a big toy. He was tall, very, very tall.
He was a lanky boy.
He was. But yeah, I thought this was the best repaint. And Skyfall was pretty interesting as well. I think this was this based off a Micromaster something, a Minicon maybe?
Skyjack, it says he's based off.
Well, there you go. It's got a better name. The color scheme is red and black, and that's usually a pretty good winning color combination. Oh, there's bits of gray and there's bits of gold in there, but they're not egregious. Yeah. He looks really good. Again, they've done a partial paint job on the face. And then just nice color layout on him.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bright orangey red, but it's a fairly consistent one. Not 100%, because there are some slight variations between the legs and the arms compared to the torso colors. But overall, they kind of read the same way, so it's not as bad. But with all that black, it's just like, And it's nice glossy black as well.
Yeah, good shine to it. XL Hedge says, Silverbot always has robot undercarriage, so much it was part of his cartoon model. Mostly the fault of his alt mode. The only way that will go away is to give him a different aircraft to change into.
I mean, that's fair, because Concorde is famous for not really having much space to it. It's the thinnest tube they could put on a Delta wing.
It's kind of weird that, like, after all these years, we've never really gone back to, like, the Concorde, like, design or aircraft, right?
Well,
like, aircraft hasn't really evolved a huge amount.
Well, it's a weird one, because Concorde was part of a lineage, because really Concorde and the Vulcan were the last two great Delta Wing aircraft. And, I mean, the Vulcan lasted nearly 30, 40 years. Concorde would probably still be flying if it hadn't had that quite nasty accident. But that was the only...
Did it explode? It exploded, right?
Yeah, the one at Charles de Gaulle. But that was the only accident any Concorde had in 30-odd years of flying.
Makes you wonder, because Boeing's had so many accidents.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That accident, and I think there was one other issue another flight had. It didn't crash, but it came close, and they just decommissioned. And it wasn't. And it was two nations, individual fleets of aircraft they grounded and decommissioned.
Weird, very strange.
Yeah, and bear in mind that was what there were maybe a dozen of them. And one crashed.
Yeah, and
in
then
30 years,
and then all of them go.
Yeah,
and then the technology was never kind of picked up again, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, Concorde was always a weird one, because it was kind of as luxurious as air travel could get, because they emphasized the speed, how quickly you get from destination to destination, and they made it the ultimate flying experience. And they kind of pivoted to what you get now in modern airliners, where I've not flown in decades at this point, but it seems like a lot of them, they're much more, they're almost like flying sea liners in terms of.
I would describe them as shitty bus services.
It depends on what class you're in, as with all things.
Yeah.
But they try and sell it a very particular way. And
no normal person can afford first class, though. No normal person can, or you do it once in your life, and that's about it.
Yes. But,
Skyfall, good robot mode. Very good color scheme. I think this Silverbot mode had the best two repaints, because I think both of them are very good.
I would like bad. I'd agree with that, to be fair. Yeah, they're both really nice repaints.
Right, so the last of the Universe toys was Onslaught, who caused a bit of controversy because he was a police riot vehicle armored truck thingy, and obviously not part of a Combaticon Combiner team. However, he was a pretty neat-looking robot, very lights and sounds. He was big. He was a little bit awkward to play with just because of how like thick his legs were and how big like his shield was on the back of his arm. And he did have very big gaps in his forearms where the fists folded into, because this was the era of like those things just being left open. I mean, those things are still left open now in today's figures. He did have the issue of like the way that those the way that cut was put was on the top of the forearm rather than the side of the forearm. So if you wanted him to not have monkey arms for articulation, you had to like have those big holes pointed upwards, which made it much more noticeable.
Yeah, and it didn't help because there wasn't really a lot of. There was really only the bicep joint and the elbow joint.
Yeah,
there was nothing. There was nothing else really in the forearms you could do to swivel it. Really, so you can see where down below they've swiveled. Under picture, they've got one arm swiveled to accommodate the shield, but you can't do anything else with that arm when it's like that. You can't kind of bend the arm forward or do anything else. It's you have to have it in the way the other arm is positioned to actually be able to do anything with it.
Yeah, again, hence the gorilla monkey arm, which happened. You know, that's a very Beast Warsy kind of way of doing things. It feels like.
I mean, it does kind of work for what they were going for with this version of Onslaught, making him a very brutal looking character. Because he is hench as a AF.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He was a very heavy figure just because of how big and electronic-y he was.
Yeah, if you got into any argument with someone, you could end it with this thing. Because it weighs a ton.
Mr. White says, I do love this guy, even though he isn't the prettiest, and his head feels like a kitback from something else. I could see that. He's also got a bum flap as well, just to cover his shame. Maybe he doesn't have a bottom. So that's what that was there for. In his vehicle mode, he turned into a SWAT vehicle with giant like anti-aircraft gun cannons on his back and a siren that went off. So I'm not sure what kind of police squad this was, but it was a pretty aggressive one, that's for sure.
I mean, for 2009, we were going, what police force uses a thing like this? And today it's like, oh.
Yeah, the good ones. Let's go. It had giant claws as well on the shoulders, which could flip down. I'm not exactly sure what these were. Were these meant to be for like picking up mines or something?
Minesweepers, bull bars.
Yeah.
Crowd dispersal.
Jesus, that would be intense crowd dispersal. I think that's more like smushing, but fair enough. You could awkwardly store the shield on the top of the car mode. It was fine, a little bit awkward, but it was okay. It was a place to store it at least, so that's okay.
Yeah, it worked.
And the transformation allowed you to like fiddle around with a lot of big, clunky, clicky joints. It was very clicky, which was quite nice.
Oh, yeah. His joints were real satisfying to do stuff with.
Good knees, good hips. I can't remember if the shoulders were. They probably were. I think most things were on the elbows. I don't think were on ratchets, but the shoulders were.
I mean, despite the issues with the arms, he actually could pose like a champ. In my experience, anyway. And there's a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned, but I like how he has that knife that flips out as well.
Oh, no, it's not a knife, is it? It's a baton. I think it's a police baton.
Is it a baton?
Yeah, well, he's a police squad dude, so it's a baton for bloodshedding. It's either a baton or a gun. One of the two.
Oh, yeah, it's a small gun. That's what it is, yeah.
I always kind of visualized it as a police brutality baton.
I mean, that works as well, especially for Onslaught. So.
Yeah. XL Hedge says, Onslaught being an armored SWAT vehicle is so fitting. And yeah, for an updated, like, new tweak on the character, it's like, he still has the silhouette because he has the guns behind his head. He has the right head design. It's like, I'd say he's not the right color for Onslaught. He's like not the right color at all. He's definitely more toy-ish, I suppose.
Yeah, a little too military grey as opposed to Onslaught with a bit more of the old dark bluey greenish colours.
Yeah, decent. The legs were kind of weird with the gray bits because it was like weren't his like the internals of his leg quite hollow?
Yeah, they were more than a tad.
Luckily, it was covered. You couldn't really see it, but you had I think the thing that I wanted to make note of were the gray cages on the side of the legs. I'm not quite sure why they were made to be like hollow with bits cut out of them, gray caged looking things. Were you meant to like put figures in there?
I'm trying to remember. That would have been fun.
I don't know. Seems weird though.
Not sure if there's enough space, but it may have just been an attempt to save a little bit of weight.
Maybe? I don't know. I think there was... It's been a long time since I fiddled with the Onslaught, so it's hard to know. But he did get some redos. He got into Hard Head, which is... It was just a hard head kind of recolor. Wasn't anything crazy. I like the fact that the shield was black and they had the Decepticon insignia with a cross through it and then like a tally chart on. That was pretty fun. That's nice.
It's such a hard head thing to do that.
And it shows that they cared. You know, it's not they could have just made it green and that would have been it. They did a little bit more and it's like, oh, that's nice.
I mean, ironically, all the colours on this really do scream hardhead because it's the right shades of green and that slightly off yellow. I mean, I ended up getting who did the upgrade kit? There was an upgrade kit that basically swapped out the head for a proper Duros headmaster.
Was it Perfect Effect?
I don't think it was Perfect Effect. It was a company that aren't in business anymore, but they're the same guys who did the upgrade kit for Bludgeon.
The Hunt for the Decepticon Bludgeon, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I got the knockoff version, and I think I know who you mean. I can't remember the name though.
Yeah, but they gave him both. They gave him two blasters modeled on his G1 toy, his big old shoulder cannon, and replacement headmaster head, and it took the figure over the top. It's not sort of Hasbro wouldn't have put that much work into a repaint, but as a third party upgrade to what was actually a pretty decent figure to start with. I mean, for the longest time, it was the hard head in my collection. I mean, I still have it. Yeah. I still have it, and it's still. I think I could find a place for it very easily on a shelf if I was rejigging things a bit. But Hardhead is again. He's one I have a soft spot for because he was the only Autobot headmaster I had growing up, and he was a big H-tank, which was a bit novel at the time. So to see him come back in any form, I was like, yay!
Mr. White says, I would have liked a Roadbuster repaint of Onslaught. I think that would have worked.
Yeah.
I think it's a little too close to Hardhead's color scheme because it's like green and beige versus green and orange, but that would have been a solid choice.
I get what Mr. White's saying there because that would have been...
It might have been a better choice than Hardhead.
Probably, yeah, in all honesty.
Just because Roadbuster feels like a police kind of brutish kind of SWAT member character.
If they hadn't done that repaint of
Exilion, Cybertron headshot,
Hotshot as
Roadbuster.
Springer, which is a very Roadbuster color scheme.
Yeah,
actually no, it was Roadbuster, wasn't it? Yeah,
he's with Dirge.
Yeah. If they hadn't done that, then they might have gone here instead. Because I think to some extent they were also cycling through some of the names that they need to keep a trademark on.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
So if they've already done like a Roadbuster, they go, we've already done him. Who's next? Here's an Autobot. Tanky dude.
Do it before we lose the name. Fuck.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. XL Hedge says, imagine if we got all the Combaticons as police/SWAT vehicles. Maybe with some that's maybe even a G1 style barricade to punish and enslave. That would be pretty nice to see, actually. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not Copter, what's his name? Vortex could be a police helicopter. That works easily enough.
Blastoff's a little trickier, but I'm sure they can find something.
I don't know what you do for Blastoff.
Brawl could just be one of those urban assault tanks they have knocking around.
Yeah, could you do you know the tanks that they have where they just put it like a giant battering ram on the front?
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Is that the one you mean? Okay, yeah, you could do that. Swindle could just be a normal police car, I suppose. That works well enough.
Yeah,
it's blast off. That's the one that you go. Police rocket ship is a little hard to justify.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do for him unless you just make him a different kind of helicopter. That might be a bit too different. I don't know. It could work. It could be interesting at the very least.
Yeah.
We also got Clench, who I really wanted for the longest time because this was the first Clench figure we had in many decades from BotCon. He had a remolded head, so it looked like very angry, pissed off Clench. He had the right color scheme and he had the G2 logo on him. Yeah, he was pretty neat. I thought this was a really good reuse of the figure, and BotCon did a really good, solid job on it. I don't think it had the electronics in. I think with most of these figures, BotCon stripped out the electronics because it's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, but they just kept it as the figure itself, which...
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them. You know, do you really
Not at all.
Do you really want to fuck around with lights and sounds when you're just a toy convention people?
Yeah.
It's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
You know, strip it out. But no, I thought this for me, this was the best version. The one I preferred.
I can see that.
It's got the cool head. I really love the head design for Clench. And it's got the silly color scheme. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a nice figure overall, this one.
Now, next up, we have the Generations-ish kind of stuff, but I also threw in Terror Dive because I wanted to talk about Terror Dive, who was for the Decepticons. Terror Dive based off of Smoke Jumper, very heavily based off of Smoke Jumper, but tweaked a little bit. There were some differences that made it really cool, which I do appreciate.
I dig this figure. I have him and Space Case on my shelf next to Dark Mountain Bludgeon.
Yes, he has one problem, and it's nothing to do with the figure. It's to do with his weapon, unfortunately. But he turns it into a really cool backwards, let's say, a Sky Striker from G.I. Joe, right? Almost.
No, he turns into the Conquest X30, which is itself
is that not the Sky Striker from G.I. Joe?
No, the Sky Striker's for Tomcat.
I don't know what that is. Is that the standard-looking plane?
It's for Top Gun plane.
Okay. Yeah, because there is a G.I. Joe plane that has backwards wings.
Yes.
I don't remember.
It's the Conquest X30. It's based on the XF-29 concept fighter.
What's it called in G.I. Joe?
The Conquest X30.
Is it? I thought it had a bit of a snappier name.
Came with Slipstream.
Shows how much I give a shit about Joes.
I mean, I owned that one, so...
But yeah, they took some of the elements of it's specifically when I say the smoke jumper mold, it's how the back of the jet transforms, which are his arms. His arms transform and fold up in the exact same way. But then they do a lot of other things, like how I think the way that the hips kind of flip downwards as well to kind of swing down is very similar. But they add the wings to the side of the robot legs, which is kind of neat. The hands can fold in actually and become the jet engines. So just kind of you pull the forearm out, and then the hand kind of pulls out a little bit, and then you swivel it around, and the engine's on the back of the hand. Then you kind of collapse them back in. The way that the nose cone kind of flips back down between his groin. It's really, really good. This is a really cool jet mode. It's really fun to do. I wish they'd done more recolors of it, to be honest.
Yes, I also wish that whoever took this picture hadn't tried to give him digigrade legs, because this is a much taller, lankier looking figure than that picture suggests.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
So he looks kind of stumpy there, sadly.
Yeah.
He's actually one of the taller deluxes.
Yeah, he's really tall.
Of any era. Poses nicely. For a jet former, it's not perfect, but it's probably about as clean as you can get in a deluxe price point.
I think for this time period, it might have been one of the cleanest.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we looked at Silverbolt, who was not clean. We looked at who was the other jet that we looked at? Was it just Silverbolt? I mean, I'd say it's cleaner than classic Starscream.
Yes. Definitely. Not as clean as Cyclonus, but Cyclonus is a very different sort of design.
And Cyclonus was messy in his own way.
Yes.
Like his bottom was dirty.
The fact that although it's inspired by concept aircraft. It's not actually based on any real jet. Probably helps it a bit.
Maybe.
But it just
doesn't need to be real to be cool, and it's got that cool factor to it.
And novelty, because it is one of the all too rare force-up wing fighters. I mean, we've had Dogfight, Cyclonus, I think a couple of Micromasters back in the day, and that's it.
Yeah.
With that design, maybe a couple of the Tetrajets they've used really stubby force-up wings on occasion, but this is really probably the nicest force-up wing fighter they've done.
And it's nice that they went for this color scheme as well, because like this is not what you would expect them to do for a jet former kind of color scheme.
No, he looks dangerous. He looks poison. Yeah,
got a good head design as well. That's different. It's maybe a little. It's a little movie-ish, but I think overall his design wasn't too movie-ish, which is why I was happy to get him.
He kind of straddles the line that they tried it with a few figures where they were kind of they weren't 100% one way or the other. They wanted to keep them a balance, and it didn't always work. The Terror Dive mold, though, it really works.
It does. Let's have a look at that. The Terror Dive mold. There was apparently a variation with opaque windows.
Oh,
which I don't think I ever saw. Even the images that they're using on the site look the same, but I'll take your word for it. They did it twice, or three more times. They did it into Collectors Club Depth Charge, and also into the Starscream figure for the BotCon 2013 set, and also, as Big D mentioned, Space Case. So, Depth Charge, they did nothing with it. They just Depth Charge color schemed it. I think the robot mode looks really good. I don't think it looks as nice in jet mode, because it's mainly just boring blue. When you've taken a lot of the nice kind of silver and pink away.
I get that, but they do work better than you'd have expected them to.
Yes.
I agree the robot mode is the strongest, but the jet mode is shockingly coherent.
Yes, it's okay. They've tried to give him like little manta eyes on the side of the jet as well, which is cute. Or at least the nose cone. It's like, so it's okay. I think the robot mode's much better. I didn't mention what the bad part was. It was his trident. For Terrajet.
What's your Trident? Because I've never had an issue with the Trident.
You might have, you just haven't noticed. Specifically, what kind of plastic are they using for the hilt?
Oh, it's gold, isn't it?
And what is that right in this? How do you transform that thing?
It's on basically a ratchet.
No, it's a big old pin joint. I know. I'm pretty sure mine has a small crack in it, in that part. I think most people's probably do. It's not tremendously huge. It's not like it's going to flop over. But I did notice a small crack.
Mine's been up on the shelf for the best part of a decade and a half. So
yeah, it might be one of those things that if you try and transform it, it will start to crack. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the case. That's the issue with it. This is obviously not a problem for depth charges, because it's just, well, it could be, because it's a big pin that goes through the center, and it's quite thin plastic around, to be honest.
It is, yeah.
It is very thin. It's a nice weapon. The way that the Trident works is a tiny amount of automorphing, but it is a big pin that goes through a very thin bit of plastic. We've also got Starscream from the BotCon set is actually pretty fucking good as well, to be honest.
I actually hadn't seen this one before, but yeah, that's kind of awesome. I'm getting the way that face is done. Ironically, gives me echoes of Prime Starscream in a way.
I think I can see what you're talking about. It's
not
quite a thin face, right?
It's probably just me, because I've seen a few episodes of Prime recently, and so
to be fair, the face is thin. He has a red crest running through the center of it. It's grey/white. That's kind of what Starscream's face is in Prime. So I can see where you're coming from.
It's a nice color scheme, though. Not exactly Starscream, but yeah, that's
it's completely Starscream from Machine Wars, though. They've squished it, because if you remember, Machine Wars Starscream is Skyquake. And it doesn't look like Skyquake at all, obviously, but they've got the all the colors are on that toy, and they've mushed it into this fairly cohesively. The jet mode's boring though. It's just black.
It is.
They do have the tiger shark design on the nose cone, which I appreciate.
I was going to say, but they gave him the jaws on the nose cone. That's cute.
Yes,
that's cute.
It's cute. It's a little small, and to be fair, Machine Wars Starscream's jet mode was fucking boring as well, so it is consistent. But when you go from like Terror Dives, and you go from like even though I didn't like Depth Charges, I think it was more interesting than this jet mode. But I do like the robot mode. Then you had Space Case, who I wanted to pick up multiple times, but then I didn't pick him up. Why didn't I pick him up, Big D?
I don't know, Andy. Is it because there's a little bit of translucent in play on it?
A little. A little? Oh my god. He's... For some fucking reason, and I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure the original Space Case wasn't translucent at all. I don't think. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind. All of the bluish gray is translucent, so that's the wings, the forearms, the nose coat, all of the top of the jet, and his head. For some reason, is translucent plastic, and it's a real shame because it looks cool. I just don't know why they didn't just make it opaque, normal plastic.
I think it was part of a subline for Dark of the Moon.
Is there a subline?
I think a lot of the figures from his subline had translucent. It was a whole it just says on the just says the figure was available exclusively at Target in 2011, but it doesn't say if it was a special nonsense woo-woo thing, which very well could be, because I mean they did do stuff like that. Yeah, I mean I got mine from Tesco's.
Damn,
randomly.
Which, they gave him a new head design. I think the head mold is appropriate for Space Case. It looks neat. It's very different again.
Yeah.
The yellow eyes are a bit flat, but fine.
Yeah. But it gives you two very distinct takes on the same basic mold. If it had a third one, I'd have been happy. I mean, I could add another set of Seekers for another.
I argue that because of the kind of jet it was, they should have done Snare.
Oh yeah,
and it would have looked cool because it would have been like red with like blue lightning-ish kind of stripes on the jet mode, and then he would have been black and bits of gold and red primarily, and the cockpit would have been translucent lime green.
Oh,
yeah, it would have been quite fun.
I'm gonna need a moment.
Yeah, I would have liked it. But this is good. I think because you mentioned that it was part of a subline, I guess that's why it has random Cybertronian language scribbled all over his body, which makes me think he's like Zaz from Batman. Apart from without scars, it's just... Or like, there are characters in fiction that just write and doodle on themselves for some reason because they're crazy. Kind of gives me that kind of vibe. But this is a great mold. Love this mold.
Oh, definitely. I've always had a soft spot for it ever since I first saw it. Cause it's the fact that it's a jet, but he folds up so much that he doesn't look like he's carrying half the jet on his back.
Yeah.
And that's so refreshing.
Yeah, he's very, very clean. If Hasbro wanted, as Hasbro's wanted to do, which is take all transformation schemes and update them, if they did this and they gave me a snare out of it, I wouldn't be against it. I would go, it's a bit lazy, Hasbro, because that's all you're doing, really. It's primarily what you're doing at the moment, so sniff. But if you gave me a snare out of it, I'd go, well, I don't mind eating a hat. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, give me Space Case and Terror Dive as well in a triple pack with Snare.
That'd be a really cool triple pack.
And it really would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be a sick one. That'd be great.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen because who's Terror Dive, who's Space Case, who's Snare? J1 fans don't want them because they're too obscure. Better make it a HasLab exclusive.
It's from the company that keeps churning out GoBots, who I can't remember, and I was really into GoBots back in the day.
It is bizarre that they say we can't put out these characters, and then they release GoBots as part of the Generation Select line, whatever Generation Select is. Is that even still a thing? Who knows? I don't think it is. I think Generation Select is done.
Yeah, I think Nova Prime might have been the last gasp of that. Or
Nova
for
Prime
Go Triple Pack, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it would have been that. Was Nova
Yeah,
Prime?
no. He was technically Geneslex. He shipped in a Geneslex box, but inside that was a standard release figure box for him.
Ah, okay. That's weird.
Which is really weird.
That sounds like a waste of money. Because it's a box inside of a box.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. Now, a proper Generations figure, one that I do like, that doesn't transform nearly as well as Terra Dive, and transforms, sadly enough, more like Silverbolt, is Thunderwing. Yes. I think this was the last Thunderwing figure that we had officially from Hasbro, right?
Yeah, and my big issue with this one, can you guess what my issue with Andy?
Is he's too small.
Yes, he's at least one size class too small.
Yeah, there's no reason he shouldn't have been a Voyager. And it's a shame because they've got everything there. Everything's there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They've got the stupid gun shoulders, which are pointless. They've got his bizarre chest design, and the weird extra detail on the legs and the pipes on his belt area and his stupid side skirts. And they even did the shitty drone plane for no reason. That was extra sculpting that they did. It's granted not the easiest thing to remove from the jet, in all fairness, but they did it. They gave him these two giant weird guns that have two missiles on the side of them, which are quite cool as well. And it's like it's quite jam packed for a deluxe. It just shouldn't be a deluxe.
Yeah, I really struggle sometimes to understand what was going through Hasbro at this period, because so many figures that were released that should have been at least one size bigger.
Yeah,
and would have sold probably quite tidily. I mean, Thunderwing wasn't a shovel; he sold.
Yeah, well, it was the first Thunderwing, and it was a cool design. It's like, yeah.
I mean, it was post Stormbringer, so he was kind of in the consciousness as well. That's equally surprising that they didn't capitalize more to sell a bigger figure.
It is weird, especially. I don't think they came out the same year, but if you could swap, like, size class wise, Thunderwing and Inferno, or Thunderwing and Power Glide. So Power Glide would have been a deluxe, or Inferno would have been a deluxe. I think that would have been okay, and Thunderwing could have been an Ultra. Now, granted, they would have forced lights and sounds in him. But even then, if it was just this but scaled up, I would have been okay with it, to be honest.
I mean, scaled up, there would have been space for electronics in spades.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah, because again, he's not a super complex transform, and you can tell that by like his jet mode. The top of the jet mode is perfectly fine. There's just it's all under there. It's all under there.
Yeah.
It's fairly flat though, at least. It's not a giant square because of the way that the jet works. It is just nothing really transforms. That's the issue. Nothing really transforms, but it's not a big lump that's like lifting it off the ground. And maybe that's helped by
I think because of how the wings are angled downwards as well, with guns factored in, that does a lot to mitigate the undercarriage.
I would agree. Mm-hmm. I don't. Was mold ever reused? Sorry, go ahead.
They used it for Sky Shadow and Metal Hawk.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll talk about that.
But I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on it for being too small, because otherwise it's a really nice figure. It's just it happens to be not just a deluxe, but a small deluxe because of they have gone to town with the drone and the two big missile launching cannons. He's at the smaller end of the deluxe size for this era. So for a character that's supposed to be quite imposing, it's kind of unfortunate. It's one of those figures, if anyone did an oversized KO of it, I'd be like, yes, please.
It'd be interesting to see at the very least, yeah. I like this a lot. The head sculpt is on point. It's good. Like you said, they did Sky Shadow, who I again could have done with being a bigger class. But they've remolded the head. They've remolded the chest. They actually remolded a decent amount
for a character who's kind of
who's Sky Shadow.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's in like one episode of Victory.
Yeah.
He is a pretender. So it's like, yeah, okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
He was a redo of Thunderwing, wasn't he?
I think so,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, sure. It's pretty good. Again, the head, I think the problem with this version of him is the head's too big for the body.
Yeah, I can see that.
The head's a little oversized. Thunderwing's head was a more appropriate scale. And if you actually kind of like click between the two of them, you can see like how much bigger his head is.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
Yeah, it's good though. You know, they painted the jet mode up. They added extra paint here and there, so it's nice and different. It's good. Excel Hedge says, didn't prime base Thunderwing off this figure. Didn't prime base Thunderwing off this figure.
Well, I mean, they had Thunderwing in prime, but he wasn't based off of Thunderwing G1 Thunderwing in any way.
Yeah, that confused me for a bit. Yeah. But yeah, this is a good figure. It should have been bigger. I liked how the wings flapped out as well, just to give an extra bit of a spread.
I'm still kind of surprised that when they did Sky Shadow in Titan's Return, we didn't then get Thunderwing using the.
That would have been the third use of the mold, though, wouldn't it? Because that was from Overlord, right?
Yeah. It's just weird.
I can see where you're coming from, but it would have been
weird. It
would have been odd.
Sky Shadow, but not Thunderwing.
Give it like maybe a couple more years, and I could see HasLab doing a new Overlord.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, really? Okay. There was also Metal Hawk, which was the BotCon figure. I remember seeing this originally and being like, it's like
it's a choice.
It mostly works. It's specifically Metal Hawk's Pretender shell, specifically.
Yes.
The jet mode looks good. The body and the paint looks good. I don't know why he's painted his nails blue, but okay. And then the head, and you go, oh, the head's a little weird.
It's the way it's slightly cross-eyed is kind of unfortunate as well.
And I think it looks more like a visionary. It looks more like Cryotech to me than it does Metal Hawk.
It doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know, for the listeners at home, I don't know how I would describe that to you. I think the best way is to find the picture of this BotCon Metal Hawk figure, and then look at a picture of Cryotech from Visionaries, and then look at Metal Hawk from the show. It's just not quite right. Mr. White says has Centurion vibes. I can see a bit of Centurion. I think Mr. White's thinking Ace McCloud or Frank Welker, as he was also known. And I can see that. That's fairly appropriate as well, to be honest. So this was it was a good attempt by BotCon. It was an interesting idea by BotCon. It didn't pan out 100%.
No, but like I say, it was a valiant effort, and it was bringing a character back that really hadn't had a figure since
the original. Yeah, this was the first Metal Hawk. And this is the only Metal Hawk since the original that's had the Pretender shell done. Because whenever we do Pretenders, it's always the robot mode. Apart from the two monster Pretenders we've had. 3 monster Pretenders we've had. 3. Yes, 3. Because Igneous as well. Yeah. Shall we move on? Another one?
Yes, let's.
Darkmount. Darkmount. Straxus, as he was also known. I didn't know who this guy was, and he's mostly pretty good. I have issues with him, though, and it's mainly to do with his transformation, because I find parts clack into each other quite a lot, specifically his treads.
There is a weird bit of that, sadly,
yeah. Because I like the design. I think this was when they were really going for the 3mm peg interchangeability kind of clip thing.
The C-ring connectability, which I mean, it was cute. I was kind of sad to see it go.
They didn't do much with it.
No,
and that was the issue. They gave Darkmount Straxus 3 clip-on things: a machine gun, a missile launcher, and then like a flare thing, I think.
Yeah, smoke launchers, effectively.
Oh yeah, that's what it is, because it looks like the thing off a Dreadnought.
Yeah, he is hideously heavily armed.
I think the problem with those C-clip things is they didn't really... Not all of them had places to go. That was the problem with them.
Some of them really needs to be in a particular place, or you had to put them in a particular angle because of how the C-clip fitted into the weapon.
The missile pod was fine. It went on his back. And then on this picture, they've got the smoke launcher basically on his knee, and the Gatling gun again on his knee. It's not the most optimal. If you could have placed him on the forearm, if there was like a little clip on the forearm, that would have been quite nice.
I'm just looking at mine, and I think I've got the machine gun on one shoulder, or on the backpack, the missile launcher on the other.
Yep.
And I think the flare launcher I may have misplaced.
See, mine's basically where it is.
Or it's on the leg I can't see.
He also came with his mining axe, which was pretty nifty way of like figuring out how to do a turret and turning it into a pickaxe. It's like, it looked pretty good. I think design-wise, this was a really interesting figure. I like the head design because I hadn't seen it before, so when I saw it, I thought it was neat. Apparently, it had a base mode. Was this official?
Yes. I think it may have been in some of the instructions or hinted at in the instructions.
Because it doesn't look like anything.
I mean...
Looks like a fan mode.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the arms. Look at the arms from like underneath the treads. It looks very not really like a thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate them trying to do something though.
I think it was a bit of a fan mode.
Must be.
But it was based on some conversations people had, I think, with folks at Hasbro about it, where they were told it had a base mode intended. They just didn't.
Intended?
Yeah.
Intended? If I made this base mode and they said that was intended, I'd be like, you're off your rocker. Mr. White says base mode equals dropped mode. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is that.
It does look like he's been dropped on the floor. His vehicle mode was interesting. It's a like treaded tire vehicle tanky thing. It's okay. It's pretty good. The actual turret rotates all the way around, which is much appreciated.
Yep.
It's not the most handsome vehicle, but it's solid. I like it enough. The robot mode is great.
Gun, and most soft-propel guns are not exactly lookers.
No,
unless it's a Swedish one, and some of those are absurdly good looking for a gun. Lots of shell a few miles.
Yeah.
I've always liked this. One, because the Straxus issues were some of the earliest Transformers comics I ever bought.
Right.
Back in the day.
Bit of nostalgia for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
2, it was the first Straxus toy we'd ever had. Because never had
until now.
This. Yeah.
It was the only one till now.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, he just looked kind of fun. Because, yes, there is some jankiness to the transformation process. It's not perfect. There is a bit of trying to get stuff to go right, and like you say, clacking bits into other pieces because they're getting in the way. Mm-hmm. But once you get it transformed into either mode, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. I think he has a little bit of proportion issues with like his thighs. His thighs are very, very thin. I think my preferred portion of the figure is like waist upwards. Like his arms look good. His head looks great. His legs are, they're fine. They're fine. I don't mind them enough, but if someone said his legs are out of proportion and look a bit weird, I'd be like, yeah, you're not wrong. But I don't hate them.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I love the fact that the hands are pinned so they can open and close, but still hold the weapon even opened.
Yeah, and that was specifically because of how the little gray bit slid up and down the barrel for whatever reason. But you can get some real nice poses out of him. Yeah, because you can get him giving a real swing of that pickaxe, which is brilliant. Mr. White says the ankle gap bugged me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think that's a fair comment. Yeah. For me, I still prefer this design over the one that's it's not out yet, is it? The new one.
Yeah, it is out. Yeah,
it is out. Okay, I still prefer this over the new one. It came out before
Christmas. I'm torn. I'm tempted to see if I can pick that one up at some point. The new one, just because it kind of more closely resembles the comic book version. But I do like this version immensely. It's enough one where if I was offered the chance to buy this at a larger scale, like a Voyager scale, I would be there in a shot because it's pretty great.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
But no, I mean, like I say, this has been it's been on a shelf surrounded by a bunch of goons for years now.
15 years probably, because I think this was 2010.
Not too far off, yeah.
Yeah. That's something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
He did get redone into a couple of things. He was turned into the Bard of Darkmount. What the fuck was the Bard of Darkmount from? This figure was available exclusively on the Primus package, pre-registered for BotCon 2012-2013. Oh, it was pre-registered figure.
It's Shattered Glass Darkmount. That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, he would have been a happy singing man, I suppose. I really like the color scheme on him. They've gone for not gold, more like an antique kind of gold with black and then like a moose green. I think I'd actually really like this kind of color scheme, to be honest.
I think I do as well, to be fair. Is it mirrors a little bit of Serpentor about it?
Yes, that's the kind of gold it is. It's Serpentorish gold. And that's the kind of green it is too. Yes, good call.
Yeah.
It's very much G.I. Joe Serpentor.
It works really well.
And it works nicely with the head as well. Oh, even the head kind of looks a bit like a cobra as well because of the teeth. It does,
yeah.
It works shockingly well. I'm surprised it didn't just... Well, yeah, they couldn't have called this Serpentor because it didn't look anything like Serpentor from the comic crossover with G.I. Joe at the time.
No.
There's that one, which looks pretty neat. And then there was also the one I have, which is Skullgrin, where they remolded it. Did they remold the chest? Yes, they did remold it. No, yes, they did remold the chest, and they gave it a new head.
Yeah. I was surprised by this one when it came out, to be honest.
Yeah, same. I never thought they'd do Skullgrin, just in general. And then they did it out of Darkmount, because like, what were they going to do from Darkmount? You know? There's only like one Micromaster from the military Autobot team that you could have done, whatever his name is. Probably like Flak or something.
Big Shot.
Is it Big? It's Big Shot. Yeah. In terms of that vehicle, that's the only guy, to be fair.
Yeah.
So they did Skullgrin, and it's like, oh, yeah, this. I mean, this is better than the current Skullgrin, I would say.
Yeah.
That Skullgrin's terrible. And I like this slightly redesigned head. It kind of gave the idea of a bull without being just a full-on skull bull, which is like, oh, okay, mechanical-looking dude. Looks kind of neat. XL Head says, I kind of wish I got the Warpath remold. I only had Darkmount and Skullgrin.
Did they do this?
I don't know. If they did, it's not listed on TFU. I don't remember them doing a repaint.
This came out at the same time as the actual Generations Warpath, more or less. Or not. It was around the same period, so I'd have been surprised if they redid it as a Warpath.
I would have been surprised. I mean, it could have happened, you know. But I don't remember it. Let's have a quick look. Warpath. Warpath Generations. Oh, we'll I didn't list this, but we'll need to talk about that Warpath as well, to be fair. Warpath Creo, bot shots. Yeah, I don't recognize where you got that from. I'm afraid. XL Hedge. Do you want to talk about Warpath since he was brought up and I forgot to add him to the list?
Yeah.
Yeah, Warpath. Warpath was a hard figure to find. I remember he was not easy one to get, and he's good. He's very good. He was used a couple of times, right? He was. Yes, he was. Sorry, you were saying, Big D.
No, I mean, I didn't have too much difficulty picking him up, but it was just waiting for him to be released was the pain in the ass.
That might have been it. Didn't it take ages from it to come over from America? Is that what it was?
I think it did, yeah. There were issues with that. So no, I got it from my local comic shop in the end with for 30 quid because of the markup they had to put on it.
Oh, was it Forbidden Planet?
No, we've never had one of those, thankfully. But
yeah, you want to be swindled by somebody else, not by Forbidden Planet.
No, I was swindled by our local shop instead. So
that's okay. Yeah.
I felt slightly less. What's the word? Violated by that.
Yeah, you're swindled by a man rather than a company. At least you know it's going to a man.
Yeah, but no, this was great fun because, I mean, first Warpath in a while.
Really solid, too.
Deluxe. Absolutely. Beefy had a great looking H-Tank alt mode.
Loved
with some really nice. Yep. The turret was a joy to mess with because, one, it fully rotates, the head pops out, and the gun barrel slides in. And transformed, it's a modern take on Warpath. Is it a G1 Warpath? Not really. But it's a decent looking take on the character.
You can tell it was Warpath just by looking at it as well.
Yeah.
Like, quintessentially Warpath. He had the titty cannon, and you go, yeah, Absolutely. That's him.
Yeah. I mean, if I had one gripe, it's for way the hands fold out of forearms. There's like,
oh yes,
there's quite a deep gap between
the
hands and the top of forearms, which is, it's a mild irritation, but it's not a deal breaker. But it's something some people might have a go at.
Yeah, it's like he's got really baggy sleeves, right?
Yes, yeah. But kind of adds to the charm, to be honest. He's got the C-clip functionality all over, so he's got it on his forearms. I think there's some positions on his legs that you can use in alt mode.
Yeah.
And it's one of the better uses of it, to be fair, because
it's not too in your face. It's a little bit egregious, but it's not too bad, to be fair. He didn't come with any C-clip guns, though.
No.
Even though you would expect the two on the side of his head to be C-clips, they were pinned in.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
To be fair. They were nice sections to have, though. The fact that the way they folded in and out for the transformation was a surprise. But yeah, more fun functionality.
It was weird because it didn't feel like... It felt like they were just stuck on. It was kind of weird that he didn't have like a gun. His gun was just the things on the side of his head. So it was odd.
Yeah.
It was odd. But not bad, don't get me wrong. XL Head says, I could have sworn Warpath was remolded from Darkmount. My bad. Don't worry about it. I mean, that might be the case and it's just not listed on TFU. That could also be a thing as well, to be fair. I don't know. It's just not listed, so I can't say yes or no. But Warpath was done into Striker for BotCon, which is, one, very appropriate, and two, looked really good. They did a really good head sculpt on it.
Yeah.
I don't think Striker's had any other... this was the most recent figure for
would have
her.
been,
2014? Yeah, this was the most recent figure for her. That's sad.
It is, really.
Can they do... no, because they're going for accuracy these days, aren't they? So they probably couldn't do Striker from the current Warpath. That's a bummer. But what do you think of the Striker? She's got good purple, I would think, and just
absolutely
solid.
I mean, it's the head sculpt and the colors all work really nicely for Striker. It's not the same alt mode, but it fits the character.
I'd argue it's a better alt mode because Striker's alt mode was it was very beast. It was very Beast Machines.
Yes.
Let's say.
That's a good way to describe it. It was very Beast Machines.
Yeah. There's a lot of very Beast Machine designs in Beast Machines. A lot of them. And there was also Blast Charge as well, who was that was another Beast Machines figure. That was a redo out of her where they didn't paint her head. It's not completely accurate to Blast Charge. It's this figure for those not aware, which is.
But this was intended for a customization class, so there were allowances made for it.
Yeah, it didn't have any of the red stripes on, but if it was a customized class, that makes sense. And then for a normal release, there was Treadshot, who had a completely new head, which is kind of weird. Yeah. Even though it looks pretty similar to Warpath, it is different. I think
they've given it a very Vulture looking kind of feel.
I feel like it's
intentional. But,
is it the same? Works. I'm confused. No, it is the same head. It is the same head. Yeah, they've just painted it differently. My bad. It is the Warpath head, just with a different paint job on it. My bad. The tank mode is colored as you would expect. He's black with orange and gray. It works. Yeah.
I do like how they've colored that head, folks. Is he just me, or does that have a slightly avian kind of feel to it?
It's the blue bit, right? Because it makes it almost look like a beak, I think.
There's that, and also the way that we painted the head inside the shell of the helmet gives it a feel like a Voltry feel.
The bit that looks like a heart.
Or
like his brain, like someone's cracked open his head and you can see his robot brain.
Yes.
Yeah, that's peach colored, which is an odd choice. Unless the image is just like weirded out with this color correction, but it looks kind of peachy to me.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah. I wouldn't say this one's a tremendously interesting one, but it's fine, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's Warpath. Next up, we have the War for Cybertron figures. We have a big fat boy Bumblebee. He has all of the torso, all of the forearms, and none of the legs. His legs have fucking atrophied. I'm sorry. He'll never walk again. Face sculpt, pretty good. The alt mode is what I'd say spot on. You can get that, like it's we've got an image on screen. You can tighten that up. It's not as gappy as the transformation has been done here. He has a quote-unquote attack mode where you can get his energon blades to come out from the sides of his wheels, and he also has his weird gun. So I think this transformed pretty well, but unfortunately it left a pretty ugly robot mode.
Yeah, and one thing that wasn't helped is that we'll see it more when we get to the other characters in this line, is but because they were all deluxes, B kind of towers over everyone else.
Yeah, it's weird.
Despite having, like you say, his legs are a bit weedy, he's actually outmasses everyone else by a considerable margin if you have them side by side. It's really weird.
B's like, now I don't know, Big D, if you've seen this. Have you seen the fake images of Garfield that's been turned into like a Cthulhian monstrosity? And he like chases John to eat him. This almost feels like what Bumblebee is proportionally. Like they've elongated his limbs, but he's also really fat. So you could just loom over Prime and demand lasagna.
Yeah, but sadly, poor B's let himself go a bit, hasn't he?
A tad, but only in his chest and his forearms. He's got horrible swelling in his forearms as well. I will say, though, I do like the vehicle mode. I think the vehicle mode is exactly what you would want, exactly how it should look. I don't know why they use translucent plastic, though. That's weird.
It's because they had this weird... I think someone at Hasbro must have had shares in translucent plastic or something, because they could not stop it.
They still can't?
They put it wherever they can get away with it, and you just want to slap them and say, no, you don't have to do this. Just put some paint on it, it'll be fine.
It's why I've said for a while now, don't let Hasbro use translucent plastic. They don't know how to use it. Or they do rarely, because I'm looking at an example of where they know where to use it. And you know what it's called? G1 Optimus Prime from Legacy. They knew where to use it here. Yeah. They knew how to use it. They just forget. They conveniently forget sometimes. Well, most of the time.
Or they just get carried away.
Yes.
And no one's there to tell them stop it.
And they get lazy. It's like cheaper, so whatever. We did get a redeco of this figure, a remold, which is generous. A new head and boom cliff jumper. He be red now, otherwise he is the same. Yep. New head's okay. It's not bad.
I mean, at least he had a new head, which is so rare for a cliff jumper.
True.
Out of a Bumblebee figure.
There was also the, what's it called? The Rage Over Cybertron Bumblebee figure. This is classed as a recolor. And technically it is.
I mean, yeah.
He's a slightly different shade of yellow. He has like blue lines drawn on him rather than red lines drawn on him. And then there's like bits of almost like dry brushed gold, antique gold in random spots on the figure.
And all the red translucent that they've replaced with crystally blue, almost turquoisey plastic instead.
Yeah. It's weird. All the black plastic for his limbs have been changed to grey as well. What does it say? What this was from? This figure was available exclusively at Toys R Us stores with the Rage Over Cybertron. Oh, Optimus Prime. So Optimus Prime got one as well. We'll talk about that because that looks fucking ugly. And it came with a Rage Over Cybertron Megatron figure as well, which is okay. It's okay. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, the Bumblebee mold. Not great. It was not the strongest showing for the War of Cybertron figures. I'll give you that much.
Yeah.
Luckily, the next one's one of the best, I would say.
It is.
I would say I like it a lot. It's Soundwave. He has issues in terms of his lankiness.
Yes.
But this is much better than the future. What was the line? Was it just Fall of Cybertron where they made him a Voyager and he was just worse with the discs?
Yes, because they made him all chest, basically.
He was a fat boy.
That was the gimmick.
He was a big fatty fat who's fat. So Soundwave is his weird car mode, Cybertronian car mode. It looks close enough to what it should. My favorite part about this figure was how his guns stored. You stored them in his chest because obviously you couldn't put any cassettes there. You could hide both of the guns inside of his chest cavity, which I thought was quite fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
He does have monkey arm syndrome, unfortunately.
Yes.
And he has gigantic feet.
But it does mean he's rather stable.
He is. He's not going to fall over, but he is Donald Duck flat-footing it, I would say. I really especially like the head sculpt, how they've managed to make that look very angular and angry.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this Soundwave?
No, I've always kind of preferred him over the Voyager Fall of Cybertron version, to be fair. Even though that one is arguably better articulated.
Is it? Does it have much more to it? I can't remember.
I think the arms are a bit better in terms of how they're done, so they're not quite as gorilla-like. Sorry, I'm looking at my blaster on the shelf.
Oh, yeah, because they were the same mold, weren't they? That's right.
He's a bit far away, but yeah, his arms are better. He's got, other than the chest being so deep, he is better proportioned than the deluxe Soundwave.
Okay,
but that's the only thing going for this one. At the price point, was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, it does. But like you said, the way the weapons store in the chest, wonderful. The way it transforms and that it gets into quite a crisp transalt mode, that's nice.
It's quite simple as well compared to Bumblebee, who I remember being a little bit more fiddly. Yeah,
BI struggled with a few times. Yeah, to the extent that I eventually just stopped messing around because it wasn't fun to transform back and forth.
Agreed. Yeah.
Once you got them into one mode, it was fine, but it was the process was like, I'm going to throw it at a wall. Honestly, at a deluxe scale, this was one of my favorite Soundwaves right up until I got the Reactivate version.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That one pips it for me, but only just. This one was damn good.
It's a lot of fun, yeah.
It's got ankle tilts. It could probably have done with the wheels being a little more colourful, but it's not a deal breaker. But gorilla arms, but as you said, that was kind of a bit of a thing from this era. I don't think the wrists could swivel, so that could rotate.
No, they could. I remember the wrist can swivel.
Well, that helps mitigate things a bit.
If
but
you look at the image, you can just see, like, next to the thumb, a cut in the hand.
Oh, yeah.
So they're on, like, mushroom peg or something.
True. But no, otherwise, this was a really fun figure to just mess around with.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan. XL Hedge says, call me weird, but I think the War for Cybertron Bumblebee looks better than the new one. I mean, I agree. Yeah. I mean, he's got some wonky proportions, but the new one, I didn't like the new one at all from how it looked. XL Hedge also says, I love how the Soundwave designer said they didn't know about his boombox mode in the game. That's true. And was surprised the fan mode for the toy got so close unintentionally. Yes, you can turn him kind of into a boombox, like he did in the video game, right at the end. Spoilers. It's a little bit awkward because it's not meant to be, but it worked close enough. This toy never got reused. I guess you could argue it did got upscaled for the Fall of Cybertron line, but otherwise it never got repainted. Was never directly reused as a remold or anything like that. So that's kind of interesting.
It's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Optimus Prime was next. He was awkward like Bumblebee, but thankfully was better, I would say. This is better than the future Primes as well, generally speaking.
Oh, yes.
He had the thing I didn't like about him was the transformation, although was complicated, wasn't too bad. His waist was weird.
Yeah.
Because he's got he's got how would you describe it? He's got a hinge joint that kind of clips around his waist, so it almost looks like he's wearing an additional nappy. He's not.
Yeah.
But it looks just slightly odd.
It does. He's one where, well, for one, I do kind of wish he'd been a Voyager anyway, but that would have probably helped. That probably would have helped them with things like that in the engineering, that you could have looked a bit nicer.
100%.
But I mean, I have always had a bit of a soft spot for this specific design of Prime anyway. When it first appeared, I mean, the alt mode is really nice.
It's really interesting. It's a bit. They've not tried to make it look like a truck. It's just like a speeding square or rectangle.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to come down the highway and mess up anyone in its path.
You could almost, I reckon, if Bokon did something with this, they could, and they had the license. You could make this into like a Batmobile Joker vehicle kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
I think that would work. Like it's not a normal vehicle, but you could make it into something really funky.
Yeah, and then the gun is kind of cute in that it folds up and then has a spring action to.
That was weird.
It was, but it was cute that it gave you some form of way to store it in out of the way, so it wasn't.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't think it was bad. It was just like, why? Why give him a spring?
But it looks good in hand, and it stores well in the alt mode. It's just another one where I just wish it had been a size bigger. But this was... It was a tie-in figure. Hasbro really didn't have any confidence in the video games, which...
No, they were fools.
Yeah, because War and Fall... Damn good games.
They're still the best Transformers games. Devastation's good, but I still prefer War and Fall.
Yeah.
Personally.
Understandable.
I think it's weird that like the War for Cybertron figures, both Autobots are complicated, and both of the Decepticons are like Megatron, who we'll talk about next, is very simple in comparison to the other two. I like Megatron a lot. His alt mode is a thing. He's probably got the worst alt mode of all of them.
Yeah, but he kind of had the worst alt mode in the game as well.
Yeah, he was a flying soap dish with a gun on it. And I don't think they replicated it desperately well. They tried to make it into something by giving him quote-unquote tank treads, which are two halves of the arm, and they don't really have wheels on, but you just slap them underneath the tank mode, floaty tank mode, which is like, it's okay. They tried. However, I really like the robot mode. I've always loved this robot mode. I think it's nice, big, and chunky. I like how disgustingly over the size the fusion cannon is. I like the head design. I like the small bits of translucent plastic in the shins and in the chest piece as well. And the bits of red here and there, I just like. My main issue with it is the plastic that they use for the helmet part drown out all the details. Like you said earlier with... I can't remember who it was, but early in the show, like 2 hours earlier in the show, you mentioned that like lighter plastic absorbs detail. And this is definitely one of the cases where that happened as well. You like this figure?
You know what? Amazingly, I've never owned a version of Megatron based on the Fall and War Cybertron video games.
Oh, really?
Somehow I just haven't. I do actually like the design. I like how it's slightly asymmetrical in robot mode. My only gripe is the fact that the hands, you can't do anything with them. They're just open.
They're also cut in half because of the way that the arms are. They're two halves of a tank mode. So if you do the live long and prosper kind of pose with your hands, and then run a knife in between those, that's what you do with the hands to split them apart. So I'm guessing that's why he doesn't have normal hands, because that
explains it.
If you did like a closed fist with a hole in it, I guess you could still probably do it.
Trying to get that to line up would be a pain in the ass, I imagine.
Maybe it would also be too thick. I don't know. I think maybe it's just easier to have like the open hand look to it. But I agree, it does look a little weird because it's just like lounging around. Like Megatron's got a closed fist kind of guy.
Yeah, he does look nice and imposing though, which is good.
Yes.
Is it enough one though where it would have benefited from being a size class bigger?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't do much transforming, but I think if you gave him a bigger size scale, at least you could have added more joints to him. I don't think he has a waist joint, but I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've finagled with him. There was a couple of reuses of this mold. He got done into Darkseid Megatron and the Rage set that we talked about previously. Let's talk about the Darkseid Megatron. It's pretty cool. It's what if the Megatron was like mostly black and purple? It's like, it's all right.
Actually, I've just had a look at the Darkseid Optimus Prime, and it's just Nemesis Prime.
Hey, we didn't talk about that. That's my bad. Yes, it is just Nemesis Prime, but it does look good.
Yeah,
and the car mode again looks a little bit more cohesive because it's not just random red front and then random bit of blue, then blue on the arse. It's just like black. It looks mean. Also, the red bits on the front make them look like eyes as well.
Yeah.
Which makes me think a Joker vehicle would be really good for it, actually, still.
Yeah.
And then the Rage Megatron is, what if my gun was translucent, and what if my forearms were pinky metallic color and my boob was pinky metallic color? My thighs were dark purple metallic color?
Good lord.
It's a weird looking one. This Rage for Cybertron set is weird. The Prime is mostly the same, but then he's got a load of translucent plastic on him. Huh.
Yeah.
I don't like this Rage for Cybertron set. I don't think it was very good. I think it was a waste of money. XL Hedge says, I'm only sad that we never got a Fall of Cybertron Megatron design as a toy, spikes and all. Yeah, we still haven't.
Yeah,
no,
that's a good point, actually. We haven't.
Because the Gamer Edition was the War for Cybertron one, wasn't it? Was it? Because Fall of Cybertron did a Gamer. We got the Gamer Edition of Optimus Prime. And that was the War of Cybertron. That Megatron was War of Cybertron as well, right?
Yeah.
You bought them, right?
I bought the Prime. I didn't get the Megatron, sadly.
Oh, okay. I'll make the assumption it was that. I'll make the assumption. Yeah, but this Darkseid stuff's go swivel. Go away. So the last figure we're going to talk about tonight, because we're not going to do Sea Spray because it's late. We're going to talk about Drift.
Yay! I have a soft spot for Drift. I know not everyone does, but
I like him generally, but he's kind of like Darkmount for me. I like the upwards from the waist. The worst part about Drift are his feet and his legs.
Yes, that is fair. Because of how big his legs are, I'm genuinely surprised that we haven't had another mainline Drift.
No, this could be a really good Voyager.
Not a Voyager. This could just be nice if given a redesign or a do-over in mainline.
Let me tell you why it would need to be Voyager.
Because of all the extra bits?
Exactly. Hasbro ain't gonna give away that shit for free.
That's true. That's very true.
At least I don't believe they would. So the fact that you got so much, you got two small swords which fold away and can be stored in his sheaths on the side of his skirts. And you also got the Matrix Blade, which, the issue with the Matrix Blade was it was floppy plastic.
Yes.
Which wasn't. It was very floppy plastic.
It gets very bendy.
Very bendy. It looks cool, though. And if you got the third-party one from Perfect Effect, ? Was it Perfect Effect? Someone did one. So someone in the day did a normal Matrix Blade, and it helped out a lot. My issue with the feet as well is, if I remember right, he's standing on his tippy toes. I don't think he's flat-footed. I think because of how those feet transform, they're not exactly flat to the floor, and he's using his back heel, which is the rest of the car to stand up.
You might be right on that score.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
I can't remember exactly. Unfortunately, he's on my record shelf and is my IDW/record shelf, which is 2 meters away. And yeah, I ain't getting to that this decade.
He's got a lot of decent accessories. I remember the transformation being quite fun.
Yeah.
Again, I think it was mainly the legs aren't very good because you cannot pose him because of how his feet just don't work. And he's a character that is dying to be posed with. He comes with 3 swords.
I mean, you can get some good posing. It's just, it depends on what you're going for. And you're right, the legs do let the side down, sadly, because the upper body, I mean, you can get some. He can do a 2-handed pose with his greatsword.
Yeah. And again, for
multiple variations,
that's impressive.
Which is just there are non-transforming action figures that can't do what this guy can do.
Yeah, or could do at the time. Yeah,
well, even today there are action figures, expensive action figures, but can't do what he can do.
Yeah,
he's just a mainline deluxe.
I think it's just because of how smart they decided to put in the ball joints for the shoulders, because they put the cut in so that the cut allows you to pull the arm forward almost like a fake butterfly joint by today's standards.
Yes.
It's just a ball joint.
Yeah, there are some very smart choices made on this one. The doors do on the sides of the hip skirts do sometimes tend to pop off, but from ball joints they go back on fairly easily.
Yeah, a bit annoying, but fine.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, is there things like are the wheels on the arms a tad intrusive? Maybe, but
I wouldn't say that much. So. I'd say it's a bit of a shame that the windows on the side of the hip skirts are translucent plastic with a pin going through them. Always a bit dangerous, but that's fine. I generally like this figure, and I think he transforms into a really cool alt mode as well. That looks
the alt mode
pretty good.
Lovely.
The only his big issue for his alt mode is the windows on the back of the vehicle are painted again and they're not consistent. Fine. Whatever. Yeah. Generally, it looks great. It looks like it should. His biggest downside, floppy sword.
I miss Drift. I would love to see them revisit the character.
Sorry,
maybe
did you say Windblade? Did you say Windblade?
Either or, to be honest. Either or, to be honest.
Because that's how it feels to me. It feels like I think Drift came before Windblade, and then Windblade came along, and then he got booted.
Yeah, Drift was the one that IDW designed alongside Hasbro. He was their first fully original character that was being designed to be a toy as well. Windblade was the first fan figure,
quote unquote.
Yeah, and then you had the Torchbearers.
Oh God, they were awful.
Yeah,
they were. Their color scheme was crap.
Yes, that's a thing, because as the Megatronus,
you mean Megatronia?
Yeah,
81.
Yeah, that looks great because the color schemes are just
good, very good.
Yeah, unified but not identical. Whereas for Torchbearers, it's the same color scheme for everyone, which is unfortunate.
Boring.
Yes, yeah, they could do over those, but no. Drift is a figure I have a real soft spot for, both in terms of the character and the actual toy.
Yeah,
this one.
I wonder if he gets passed over now, or maybe people just don't remember him because it's like a 15-year-old toy, so maybe they don't remember.
I mean, he's been in the movies and he's one of the cartoons, but he didn't
not this Drift. To be fair,
no, that didn't resemble this character in any way whatsoever.
No,
had a couple of nice redecos though, because they turned him into Blur, swapping out the swords for guns, which was
IDW
fun.
Blur as well, I suppose, worth mentioning.
Yeah. It's weird though, because they've listed the Shattered Glass Drift, but they haven't listed the Deadlock that they did out of it.
Did they do Deadlock?
Yeah, I think that may have been a Takara exclusive.
Oh, did they?
They basically kept the Drift head sculpt, but gave him Blur's guns.
Let me have a quick look for it while you talk.
And it was it was actually really nice. You know what? Now I'm thinking about it. If Hasbro decided to revisit Drift, which I do hope they would do, because he is.
Oh, you're right.
I think he's a little bit of an important character for the franchise for what he represents.
Yeah, I would say so.
But it could be fun if they don't think they could do him as a mainline release. How about this? They do a Gen Selects 2-pack of him in both his, so as Drift and as Deadlock.
Yeah, because the Deadlock color scheme is pretty neat. I've got an image of it up on screen, and it looks really good, to be fair.
Yeah.
Really pretty.
Yeah.
My only issue with it is they painted his nose black as well, which looks a bit weird, or it looks like they painted his nose black.
That was it. It was an E-Hobby and Transformers Collectors Club figure, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, so not easy to get. Oh, even in the photos here, you can see the swords bent.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like he has Blur's gun.
Blur's pistols and Blur's pistols and the sword. Yeah,
that's a good combo actually. Guns and sword. That's very Devil May Cry.
And it's a nice color scheme. It's actually accurate to how they did him in the comic, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean
the Shattered Glass version is just red.
It's boring. This is tasty. Give us both Drift and his alter ego in a 2-pack, and there would be some very happy collectors out there.
Do you think it's weird that they haven't tried to repurpose that Studio 86 Blur mold? Because they did it into Blur mold, because they did him into IDW Blur. It's strange that they didn't try and backwards it into making it into Drift. A very cheap, not accurate Drift, but a Drift.
Yeah. I think it is a little weird on that score, because I could see how they would have done it. So like I say, they did it into IDW Blur, so it's not that much more they'd need to do to... Hell, they could probably have just done it as a straight repaint.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be lazy, but you go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Hasbro, so...
Yeah, swap out the gun for a sword, and you'd probably be able to get away with it. But,
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
There you go. Drift. Blur. Drift Blur. They're good.
Yeah.
Good mold. Fun mold.
Definitely.
But, not 100% perfect, but I like them. They're neat.
Yeah.
Oh, they're neat.
They are.
And that will do it for today. I think we covered all of the Generations toys. I think. I think we covered. All from the 2010 stuff.
If we've missed anything, I'm sure we'll have people telling us.
I hope so. Yeah, because then we'll talk about it next time we converge. But Mr. Big D, where can people find you on the internet? Because we can't really talk about what we've been up to because it's late.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I am everywhere on the internet as David Kelly, with either this handsome image as illustrated by one Mr. Gruff from the Fluff and Hammer, or a picture of Cup with his Cyber Stoogie, because he's my spirit animal now, it seems. Otherwise, I'm a contributor to UKAnime.net as one of their resident mech heads, and I am one of the mods for the Fluff and Hammer Discord. And Young Master Gruff has roped me into doing his Deeper Dive series.
Yeah.
I also, myself and Mr. White, also do a semi-regular show called Fluff and Busters, where we talk over a movie for however long it lasts, and normally a bit more either side.
What's the next one you're doing?
We're not sure. We've just done... What did we just do? We just did Total Recall a week or two back, which was great fun, to be honest. Total Recall's... I hadn't rewatched it in a while, so it was wonderful to rewatch it. And we're still trying to decide on the next one. But we have got a bit of a backlog stacked up, because I know Gruff's been chugging away because he puts far too much work on himself, bless him. But
he'll never stop.
He really won't, but he's got it in the editing queue. But yeah, that's me, really.
All right. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as Decade Andy. rotten flesh of a human being kind of deal. You can find us on the Moonbase 2 forums, Twitter, Twitch, iTunes, Libsyn, all those places. YouTube as Moonbase 2 Transformers Podcast. We'll be back next week with maybe news. Well, that's up in the air. That depends on if anything's shown, anything cool happens, etc., etc. Who knows? Is that it? Oh, ccbunker.weebly.com. We're also there. Thanks very much for coming on by. Mr. White said Deadlock was a beautiful toy, and well done, guys. Thank you, Mr. White. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Remember, we'll be back here next week, regardless, at about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the evening UK time on Twitch or on YouTube. Thank you once again, Big D, for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.